Greetings, fellow Amblemites. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
7 years ago, we set out to celebrate the films of Steven Spielberg by providing commentary on his works he never did. After all he's done for us, it was the least we could do for him. This year, the journey comes to its inevitable end. After the personal story of the Fablemans, we'll be transitioning from commentaries to retrospectives for the stories that remain. Why? Because it takes an archaeological dig to access some of these gems, and we got a memo. So, for the last time, let's explore Spielberg's past in 88mm. Go on a road trip with a captive audience before the scary truck gets us. Or everything blows up in comedic fashion. And while we're at it, let's kick the can around a little on Spielberg Month. Do 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 do. Oh, it's good to be back one last time, Dragon. Oh my God, Spielberg Month. 7 years in the making. Can you believe it? All right. Well, let's not waste any time, Dragon. We have got a commentary to record. The Fablemans. Do you want to just quickly kind of just give our initial thoughts on the movie before we get into background?
Well, yeah, Tigger, that's how we do it.
All right. Well, I got to tell you, Dragon, I have, with this movie, I was very hyped about it when it was coming out. And as you know, it was kind of, it was very difficult for me to find. Like, it literally never got to any theater near me. So I had a hell of a time seeking this out. And I think by the time I actually got around to watching it, I liked it, but I didn't quite love it. It didn't really resonate that much with me. I kind of felt it was... It leaned just a little bit into being like, I know this is a dirty word, and I don't say it as a dirty word. Like, I mean it in an endearing way. It kind of felt like a little bit of a vanity project. I gotta tell you, Dragon, rewatching this last night, my feelings have shifted on it. Like, I don't think it's like top 10 Spielberg, but I definitely think it's up there with the best of modern Spielberg. I mean, this thing, there's a lot to love about this movie from a structural point of view that I didn't really pick up on the first time I saw it. Performances across the board are just absolutely outstanding. And just overall, one of the big things that really sticks out to me is just how many, like, really cool set pieces there are in this movie. And it kind of proves that Spielberg set pieces don't have to be this, sort of big action blockbuster affair. Like, this movie is filled with set pieces that are very intimate. I would actually wager to say, Dragon, one of the themes of this commentary track that I'm going to kind of go down is the idea that I believe that the camping trip in this movie is this movie's proverbial Jaws, essentially. We always try and find a Jaws in every Spielberg movie, and I think in this one, it's very much the camping trip. So, yeah, I'm stoked to talk about it. This is actually one of those movies where it's like, I really wish there was a commentary track by Spielberg, because I feel like I am kind of fascinated by sort of like the minutia of like what was fantasy, like what was... I assume most of this was based on real life, but then I also know that he never had a girlfriend in high school and stuff like that. So it's a very interesting kind of mix of, of different sort of takes on the autobiography. It's definitely not your standard biopic, but it's very kind of biopic leaning. So yeah, very interested for this conversation. I'm really excited to have it. And I think it's very fitting that this is our final commentary that we'll be recording for Spielberg Month. All right.
So yeah, I feel this is like the earned Spielberg movie of the bunch. This is where we
Would
kind
you
of
say they earned it?
precisely. I think Steven earned it. That's the thing. It's like we've allowed him to be indulgent after all the after all the work that he's done, which some directors just fall prey to so easily, and you can sense the trepidation why it took so long to kind of get to this point for him.
I mean, honestly, Ari Aster got there with 2 movies, man.
That's what I'm saying. Look how that turned out.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the thing. Like here, we're telling this. He's telling a story. Which is at the DNA of the majority of his work. So it's a story that he's kind of been dancing around for years. That he's just kind of finally, okay, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to tell the story. Not going to use the names though. But it's essentially
right.
We got right up to it. He didn't cross the line, but he went right up to the glass. Anyway, but yeah, this is in a weird way. Again, so apropos of what we're doing here, this does feel like the last Spielberg movie in many respects. I mean, we don't know what he's got planned next, and whatever he's got planned next, unfortunately, it's going to take a while.
I think we don't we technically. I'm going to look into that. I think we know what he's got next.
Well, I mean, I know there was like rumors of like doing a DC movie, but that was before we had so many other like plans and shakeups and stuff. So I don't know if that's even still on the books.
I will look into it. Hold on. Go ahead.
My point is, last or no, this there is something kind of big about this Spielberg movie, and that is kind of earned. There's the movie does feel kind of like closure for the movies that so many movies that were inspired by his life. So there's a kind of element of closure to this one. It's a deeply personal film that he's finally found the courage to tell. This movie really it's for the Spielberg superfans like ourselves. But I feel ultimately not for a general audience, which I think is why it did not do well box office wise. I mean, I guess it's kind of a sell only for the film fans. I'm sure the way they released it didn't help either. It's a great movie. I saw it. Speaking of Spielberg Dead issues, I saw it with my father.
Nice.
Because I couldn't get anyone else to see it, but I saw it with my father. And it made him nostalgic. I'm not saying my father was very very into Spielberg or anything, but he was he's nostalgic for the era in which this movie takes place.
Totally,
He definitely got a lot out of it in that regard. It was kind of like exposing my father, who was easily impressed to some culture for a change. So it all worked out. All right.
All right, and Dragon, I think you're right. Spielberg just straight up says, "I don't know what I'm going to do next. I have no idea."
Well, I can shed some light on that in the background here. Some light.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the background, kids. Not a whole lot, but here's the crux. So this is a concept that's been kicking around with his sister Anne Spielberg, who is Reggie, who's like the little girl with the glasses. That's essentially the fill-in for Anne Spielberg in this movie. So Anne Spielberg, who went on to be a writer and worked on Spielberg's movies and her own stuff, like Big. I think she had a hand in Big somehow, if I recall. Anyway, so he and his sister kind of worked on this concept in 1999, as far back as there. And it was the working title apparently was "I'll Be Home." I'm glad they lost that title, because what does that even mean?
I literally, if I saw that title, I would just want to fill it in with "For Christmas."
Yeah. Anyway, so they held off on doing this mainly because, again, this is like circa 1999. Spielberg feared how his parents might feel about it. So understandable, because you're gonna, I guess in the earliest versions, especially, it would have been full on Spielberg daddy issues. So do you remember when Saving Private Ryan came out?
I want to say 98, 97 or 9. No, I think 98.
Okay, that's it. So I guess at that point, though, because remember, he gets over the daddy issues when we get to Saving Private Ryan. So I guess at that juncture, we're kind of in the basically these full on like the reconnection and everything goes around that point. So I don't know, maybe that's why he's thinking about telling the story, but there's still some hesitation about maybe the wounds are still a little there.
Sure.
Anyway, so during the movie Munich in 2005, I think it was like 2005 or 2004, but let's just assume 2005, he's befriended Tony Kushner. Tony Kushner's a writer on that. Kushner wrote this movie along with Spielberg. He had done Munich, Lincoln, and West Side Story. So Kushner's on the rebound, baby. He is. The Kush. So,
Call him the Kush Dragon. That's a marijuana term.
all right, fine.
I'm
All
sorry.
right, fine. We'll make it cuddly. Cushy.
Oh God! All right. The Kush.
Anyway, so Tony Kushner, he's back there, and basically what happened was when they worked together for the first time on Munich. They were chatting, and basically he got kind of a sneak preview of that HBO Spielberg documentary.
Mhm.
Where he told me, I asked for his life story and told him about it, and at the end of it, he says, "You got to make that into a movie." So that's kind of where the idea got reignited. Like, well, I mean, there was some talks about it. So basically, Tony Kushner fulfilled.
I imagine Spielberg must have been so fucking uncomfortable with the concept of making this movie for a long time.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, he was. In '99, he was kind of shying away from it. And then he's like, "You got to do this movie. You have to do this movie, Steven." Anyway, so there was further development between gigs during movies. He would kind of like there'd be like on and off kind of like development of this, and it really just kind of languished again until the lockdown, in which we were all looking for something to do. And Spielberg was, well, I can't really do anything else right now, so I might as well develop the Fablemans, and he did. And so I'm finally going to do this project, but also it was twofold. It was one of like, well, what do I do now? But two is like, okay, I am Steven Spielberg. I'm sure you didn't think about this. I am Steven Spielberg. I have done, I've done so much. What the heck is left for like Steven Spielberg, King of Kings? I'm in the David Lean kind of sand dunes here. I've conquered everything. Right. What do I do now? Do I weep or do I do something? And basically, Spielberg in all seriousness, realistically, Spielberg, possibly because we're all looking down the pandemic, he's kind of wondering, what's the one Spielberg movie I haven't done yet? What's the one story I haven't told? If I can, we're living in uncertain times. If I only have one more in me, what do I do? So that brought about the idea. Well, I got one on the shelf I've never done. I've never had the courage to do. Maybe now's the time. And I'm sure what kind of maybe helped is that his parents, well, sadly, they passed. Mm-hmm. And now throughout the years, the parents gave their blessing for this movie. I want to make that clear. Probably not in '99, but after that, parents gave the blessing. They were always nagging. They're actually nagging Spielberg. When are you going to make that movie? Legitimately, they would nag him like, "Hey, are you gonna?" I see. So Steven,
you're gonna make us look equally bad in different ways.
It's like, Steven, come to the deli. I want to talk with you. So,
oh my God,
we understand you're a director still, and you have a movie you want to make, and you know who some actors who might be willing,
I hear that nice boy Paul Dano would like to play me.
You make movies. We made you.
Oh my God.
The film cancers aren't the only circular kind of components in this equation of life. So, point being, so again, over the years they kind of nagged to do it, and you had just sort of this. So basically, Spielberg, I think, ultimately came with a compromise, like a slight separation with the whole, it's very much based on it's almost like the based on a true story thing with a biopic in terms of like this is there's a real life basis. It's inspired by Spielberg's life. The main compromise is, okay, we're going to change the name to Fableman. Fableman being a nod to the Spielberg namesake. When you translate Spielberg, I believe it means a play mountain.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Yeah, which is like the whole. It kind of correlates to the whole Indiana Jones kind of mountain.
Right.
Yeah. The idea like play mountain. Anyway, so basically the correlation would be fable, so storytelling being kind of the idea.
Sure.
So basically, that's why we have Fableman as the name specifically, and he kind of changed he swapped a few things. Like you get a sense that
and because fable rhymes with bagel, and that's just a really easy script writing thing.
We'll get to that bagel, my friend. See, in the day and age we're living in, folks, you can never underestimate the bagel, given the story significance of said bagel.
God. Right, exactly.
You can get a whole sequel based on a bagel, apparently. Anyway, so point being, you get a sense that Spielberg back in the day, he may the younger, angrier Spielberg may have redirected who the who the fraught parental relationship is in this film. So essentially, Spielberg, once he kind of settled all that, just kind of said, "Okay, I'm gonna basically do is I'm gonna make it as authentic and close to my life as I can, but I'm just gonna like kind of make sure there's at least some separation, so it's not like the director. Oh, how gross! The director made a movie based on himself.
Let
He
me
made
ask you this: is it one for one as far as like he had three sisters and
yeah,
they're all around that same age and stuff?
yeah. Now that take
Okay,
it. Let me put it
okay,
this way: fact check wise, this movie is very on the money, like
okay.
surprisingly on the money. There's only like very you can count on one hand really like, the things that aren't things that are just kind of embellish.
Hmm.
That's okay. So basically, yeah, Spielberg he charmed all of his first choices. They all said yes. You had Michelle Williams for Mitzi. This is Lee Adler. And Paul Dano as Arnold Spielberg, Bert, who was the fill-in for Arnold Spielberg. Now, a lot of pressure there, as you can imagine, because hey, you're playing the
You are playing essentially the person who is responsible for the main theme that runs through all of Spielberg's movies.
he knew that when he took on this role. There was a lot of pressure on Dano. You know what? Dano took his craft so seriously. He actually built radios for the movie.
Oh
So
wow. Okay, can I just say like it's just a fucking travesty that that man has not been nominated for an Oscar yet.
wait, he wasn't nominated for that Beach Boys movie?
No,
Oh, that's crazy. He was real. That was like the big one for
never
him.
nominated, Dragon. Never. And he's been snubbed so many times. I mean, he should have been nominated all the way back in 2007 for There Will Be Blood. But I digress.
Anyway, so again, everyone everyone said yes. The movie came out. Sadly, was not financially successful. Again, I blame the release for that one mostly. But the critics went gaga for
Mm.
this. They loved it. I mean, I don't know how much that was like. Oh man, we don't want to insult Spielberg's life story. Do we want to be that critic? Do we want to do
I
that?
feel like this was very much like the front
But
runner at the
yeah,
Academy Awards before Everything Everywhere All at Once just kind of ate everything. I don't know. I would have loved to see Spielberg win the Best
hello, Tiki, you still
Director
there?
chair for this. I mean, I really would have loved that. Anyways,
The best director chair.
I don't know why I said chair. Best Director chair.
Best.
All right. Anyways, I don't know why I said chair. Anyways,
Okay.
all right. We're 17 minutes in, Dragon. We need to actually start this movie soon.
Tiki, you can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sorry, I just want to make sure because I'm just a little paranoid with our setup on this one.
Yeah, you're fine so far.
Right. Okay, so we're gonna need to walk him through. I'm gonna probably need a minute after we do that. Then we'll be off to the races. So you walk him through the lethal weapon thing. Tell me how this works.
Okay, folks. So, if you are watching this movie, honestly, likely you might be watching it on Showtime. That's how we're watching it. And in that case, Showtime has a logo that we're going to skip past for the first 5 seconds. If you're not watching it on Showtime, just basically get to the first frame of the Universal Globe with Showtime. It's about 5 seconds in. I don't know what it's like on the DVD menu. I apologize. But we're going to basically pause right at the start of the Universal logo. And then we're going to go count up to 3. 1, 2, 3, go. Lethal Weapon style.
Not,
When we say what?
no, go on.
When we say the word go, that's your cue to press play. Now, folks, we're going to do our level best to have an engaging conversation that you don't need to watch the film to to follow along with. And honestly, I think with this movie, I think we're going to be pretty fine as far as that goes. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of meaty conversation points to be had, so you don't necessarily need to be watching along with us. But regardless, we will be using the film as our talking points. So,
Also, on the off chance we get comments, we probably aren't going to see them, at least reliably. If anyone's going to see them, it's going to be Tiki. I'm going to say that much. So, yeah.
yeah, I don't think we're going to get comments on
I'm
this
just
one.
saying, just for posterity's sake, on the off chance that we do, which we're
Sure.
But okay, anyway, so folks, you know how it works. We're all queued up. If you're watching this, as said, just cue it up to like where the Universal Globe's about to appear.
All right.
All right.
Okay, are you ready, Dragon?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Oh man, the final Spielberg Month commentary track. At least until he does 5 more movies that we can do commentaries on, which is going to be a long time from now.
That's true. We'll have the return.
All right. Okay. In 1, 2, 3, go. All right. Nice to see him returning to Universal because I know that the BFG was Disney, West Side Story was Fox. I don't know. Just Universal seems to be Spielberg's home.
I mean, it is, and we literally, I mean, spoilers, folks. We're going to end at Universal. It would have been
Exactly.
real. It would have been really embarrassing if they said, I don't think so. It's just like, wait, what? It's like, no, you can't use Universal. Oh my, you know. So in that respect, it does kind of feel like he had to use Universal for this
Right.
story for this movie. I don't think he had a choice on this one.
All right. So January 10th,
As far as the
1952.
fact check,
What?
as far as the fact check goes, yeah, this was his first movie ever. It was The Greatest Show on Earth.
Yeah, I've heard this movie is actually really not great. I've heard it's mostly just like a literal like film circus performance for the most part.
Well,
but the train crash scene does have me intrigued though.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't this look like the ultimate sell for that movie? Of like, if anyone, like, it's Spielberg pretty much saying, guys, this is one of the best movies ever. You got to watch it. Look at the footage does look really. I don't know if we're just romanticizing how it looks and everything, but it's the whole like when we see it unfold, it looks really good the way we represent it. And plus, we're having the ultimate two hype men for this movie right now. Like this guy hyping up the science and the technology of the movie, and we have the artists in here hyping up the imagination of the film.
Yeah, I think this is a really perfect opening sequence. It's like honestly, like on a rewatch, I think it just sings because you really understand what these two parents are about, and it's kind of that push and pull, like you said, the science versus the imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle Williams, I've heard some people criticize her saying that she goes a little hammy and over the top with her performance. I don't agree with that.
Well, again, I think it's on the money, though. It's essentially, his mother was kind of like a Peter Pan. He always describes his mother as Peter Pan in terms like she was more friend than mother, and she just never really grew up. So she is
right.
I mean, it seems like. Plus, I mean,
honestly.
I find the casting to be so perfect for this film in terms of the parents, in terms of like honestly, in terms of here's the one no one's ever talking about. The kid who plays our fill-in for Spielberg, who plays Sammy, he is utterly wonderful because I look at this kid, especially when we get to the team, even as the little boy right now, but when we get to the team, Gabriel LaBelle, he is flawless as a young Spielberg. I absolutely buy him perfectly. It's like if we did a Spielberg biopic, we have to get this kid.
Totally.
Of course, it's easy to say now, obviously, but yeah.
So I'm willing to bet, like, again, I have not seen The Greatest Show on Earth. I'm willing to bet that, like, most of the movie is circus performances, and then you've got probably, like, a side plot with these guys. I don't know. I mean, this certainly looks like a very dramatic moment.
This looks like so well shot, and you understand. You get why it inspired the boy.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I love this. How here's what's even funnier about this too: the fact that you get the idea the parents had not seen this movie yet; they were hyping it up, and they're saying, "Oh God, this may have not been the best movie to take our 7-year-old."
Right.
Ends in a giant train crash.
Man, I miss model work when it came to those sort of stunts.
That was really good model work too. Of course, he's just stupefied. He's just like, did I just see what I thought I saw?
That's me the first time I went into the Tiki room.
Someone saying, "What was your favorite part, Tiki?" Okay, so we're doing a few things right now with the holiday setting at the top here. So we open on Hanukkah. Now, one, it gets us the train in terms of like we have the the train is the gift. It's an introduction to the family because we see both sets of grandparents, and then we have the Jewish faith here with the whole dark house thing. So we're setting up key things that are going to be throughout the film. The Jewish family, the basically being ostracized, or at least being definitely standing out for being Jewish. And again, obviously, the importance of the train in terms of it being like the first film that he's going to make.
Sure.
Based on the first film that he saw. So.
See, this is the 50s, right?
Yeah, we're in the. You saw a 52 Tiki. We're in the 50.
Okay, yeah. So this is like literally like within the decade after World War II ended.
So basically, Spielberg roughly is as old as my father, so he's that's I think it's when my father saw this movie, he was really taken like it got really nostalgic for him, because all this was on the money.
Mm.
Of course, the idea here is he can't stop thinking about the movie, and he's just so excited. He knows exactly what he wants for Hanukkah, and this I love. Now, this is one of those things where I don't know. We know Spielberg made that film with the train, so I think it's a fine leap. If this, I can't say if it had in real life or not, but I have to say it makes sense that he would have gotten like eight parts of the train for the 8 nights of Hanukkah, which is a really cool gift idea.
That is a really cool idea for a gift. Yeah, yeah.
That I can't verify, but it sounds a lot of this. If I can't verify, majority of it sounds like stuff where you could say, "Yeah, it makes sense. It probably happened." I mean, why else would Spielberg be so detail oriented about it if it didn't?
Well, I mean, to be fair, it does kind of work in a good like montage.
Yeah. Now, I'm blanking on this actress's name right now, but the actress who plays the more sour of the two grandmothers, the Yettas, I suppose you might call them. She
Those
is
two grandmothers very much have like a Roald Dahl vibe to them for me.
Yeah, that's the thing. So the one who's a little more cranky, like don't let me get electrocuted. That's Ruth from Hunters. That's the grandma from.
Oh yeah, okay, for sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
of course she's wonderful in that. It's a brief role in that, but she's wonderful. And
I still need to watch season 2, but yes, I remember her.
seriously, how great is this Lionel train, man? How wonderful is this?
It looks super cool. It really does.
Yeah. Plus, it has like a little smoke feature too, which they all used to have. I think some of them, like when they make them now, they try for authenticity. They still add like the smoke in there. Only now it's probably a lot less hazardous. I imagine.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I think some of these TVs and radios, Paul Dano built and repaired them himself.
That's crazy.
Right?
I genuinely feel bad for Paul Dano because the man he puts so much craft into what he does, and again, I feel like he's continually one of the more underrated actors in Hollywood.
You know what the sad thing is we don't see him like turn. You don't see any of these even turn on. None of these radios or TVs even turn on, so it's such a pointless endeavor. But he went for it.
Right, exactly.
So I love this shot composition here, and he's like Spielberg top of his game, and it's showing like I still got some in the tank.
That right there is one of my favorite shots in the whole movie
because it epitomizes like the it's shot like a director would shoot, and we're seeing the birth of the director in the boy's eyes.
Right.
Yeah, I love seeing the pieces come together here. We have a car that's similar to the one in the movie, and it was a little.
The idea that at this point he doesn't even really put the pieces together that he wants to make the movie. He just wants to see the crash again.
Yeah, and it's kind of about control and the director in him, which is the mother is going to be wise to after we have our little train crash go on here. That's what I'm saying. Look at how it's so mundane in terms of what is actually happening here, but
it genuinely is a very impressive shot.
I think we're shooting the most amazing way utterly possible. Now, you got to admit, though, that shelf was poorly constructed.
Yeah, I will admit him knocking over the shelf is one of the very few kind of like buys that I have in the movie.
No, I just mean like it's a sense of you get a sense Dano of all the things he built on that set, He could have put.
Do you think he built the actual shelf?
No, I'm saying of like, Paul, I love what you're doing here, but can you use some work? Yeah, maybe the shelving.
Oh God. Wait, are you saying that they're basically like outsourcing him for woodshop work?
It'd be really funny if that were the case, but
he's just like a consummate people pleaser, and people are like taking advantage of it.
Or perhaps it's this of like, okay, Paul, Arnold Spielberg's going there and saying, okay, listen, Paul, my father he was a good man, he's a complicated man, but one of the complicated things, he would build shelves, but they would never be built well.
Oh God.
He was not a carpenter. He was an engineer, but not a carpenter.
It's like the shelves weren't even meant to fall down, but it happened because he was that much of a method actor. They just left it in the
Okay, so in
movie.
real life, I imagine a sound probably did happen. Eventually, they would find out the boy was doing this and crashing the trains. But again,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's a question of would it happen like exactly one for one that night and everything. But still, this is nice that we're having the parents kind of have the difference of ideology here with the father. I love when he took the trains away and he says basically, "I treat these more respect because it was an expensive gift and everything." He's saying, maybe we'll play with him Sunday. Like he's not saying I'm taking him away from you forever. It's like, but I'll fix him up a little bit and we'll
But like you were saying, he's literally taking the control away, which
he is taking the control away, though. Yes.
yeah.
So again, it's twofold. And again, that epitomizes who that character is, though. Or this you'll see throughout this movie, and I love how we do show this, that the father is not a bad guy. He's not like we're not seeing him in an antagonistic light or anything, and he is just he is supportive of his son more so in the drive that he has, but not in what he's doing.
Mhm.
Like he's
Well, let's
writing
talk
it off.
about that because I actually think one of the big revelations, like I pretty much got this my first watch, but it really kind of shined through on my second watch. One of the big things for me that I think is so well written about this movie is that it really doesn't take sides with the parents.
Yeah, and that is the big question of the movie for me in terms of do you think we soft pedaled that or do you think we made the right choice in
No,
doing it?
honestly, I don't think we soft pedaled it because I do think that both of them have their flaws that are shown.
That's true, but I got to admit, Tiki, I think you're right. By the same token, though, it does feel, knowing what we know, like we got all the mileage out of the daddy issues thing, it does feel like it does feel like we gave Dana one scene where we really put that on display, the father son kind of straight. There's one scene in the movie where it feels maybe a little unbalanced in terms of like he gets one scene where we do have like a whole big plot point of like of Mitzi, and it feels like retroactively Spielberg is like, if I'm gonna do this movie, I want to make sure I'm fair to my father, so I'm gonna maybe switch things a little bit, and then people are gonna fall in love with the Mitzi character, so she'll be fine. But
I don't know though. I don't know. I like honestly I hear what you're saying, but for me, I do feel like there is a lot of blame on the father for being very kind of like for having the tunnel vision of focusing on his career, which is again like Spielberg pretty much invented the overworked dad trope, and this
yeah,
is very much kind of like where that is coming from. Like,
yeah.
the whole thing of like uprooting the family from Phoenix to California, that was a very short-sighted thing on his part. And and then I guess let's talk through Benny.
Yeah, so this is a couple things here. This one I can't verify. This one feels so real. The fact that they have like the plastic table and like well, not the plastic tablecloth and the implements and everything, so they can basically ball up in a big old trash bag. It's
Mhm.
really clever. But yeah, so we're introduced. What we're putting on full display in a subtle way that kind of grows and builds is the fact that this scene right here where Bert talks about his day and he tells it to Mitzi. Mitzi again, it doesn't really come alive until Benny describes it, until Benny that relays what he's saying. So she loves her husband and respects her husband, but she has a connection with Benny, who's the storyteller. He's the more imaginative, more personable guy of the
Mhm.
duo, and it's just kind of interesting that you get. It's almost like a Foggy kind of Matt Murdock thing in terms of you get the sense that Matt Murdock, he's the guy putting in all the hours in the lawyer talk, where Foggy Nelson's like he's the song and dance man.
Sure.
Or I'm sorry, actually, maybe vice versa in different contexts. In the courtroom, it's Matt Murdock, and outside of it is probably Foggy Nelson.
I very much
My
got
point
on
is
the
they both
Gill
have kind of like
brothers
a job in
side.
what they do.
Not necessarily from their dynamic as a whole, but very much from the whole, the tension of of like Rebecca on Better Call Saul. It's like she's that one famous cold open where Jimmy is just lighting up the room and Chuck is pretty much left out in the cold. Like that very tension is kind of like at the root of the Benny stuff, I think.
Sure, and it's yeah, and more of a competitive kind of side of things. We're definitely showcasing that here. Yeah, it's the fact that it's tension there, and there's a question of how much does Bert recognize this, or how much of this is literally him come up with later. Because we don't really have a scene where it's spelled out to him, but it's kind of there's a tension there, and there is a scene where he says you have to wonder how much of it is like I didn't bring Benny along on purpose versus us he literally could not bring his friend along.
My theory is that in his head, he knows, but it's one of those things where it's like he just does not want to acknowledge it.
Sure.
Where it's like, like if he says it out loud, it becomes real, like that kind of thing.
Yeah. Also, we had Hadasha there, the Ruth from Hunters. Her saying we had her do a little exposition there for the kids, and everyone's saying, "Okay, folks, it's not one of those stories. He's not he's the non-biological uncle." Meaning he's so folks, we're not telling that kind of story where she's falling in love with the brother. She's falling in love with the friend who's really her friend ultimately. So we have kind of the closet set up here too, where we have mother and son kind of having this big bonding moment in the closet watching the movie. I love it. It's almost like a Doc Ock from Spider-Man sort of thing, like the power of film in the palm of my hand.
I love how this closet's going to come back a couple times in the movie too, in more dramatic ways.
Big time, yeah. Big symbol.
Okay, is this where we get the transition? No. I will say the transition in timelines in this movie are just eloquently handled.
I think we get the transition after the tornado. So
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Fair warning, I'm flying a little blind here, Tiki, so you're going to have to be descriptive for me on where we're at.
Okay, we're on the montage right now. Do you want me to pull up a timestamp or what?
I mean, you can, but I'm probably just going to be flying blind on most of this, so just,
Shoot. Okay, that's not great.
Well, no, Tiki, relax. I'll be fine to catch up to. You just gotta give me some context. So.
Okay, I mean, right now they're doing the the montage of making all the movies. We're seeing the Mummy, wrapping the Mummy stuff.
Yeah, this is great. Now, all of this is based on real life. So here's the thing: all the recreated footage, like every single home movie, everything you see filmed with that camera, that's one for one real life. That's like
oh wow, that's crazy.
All of that is like Spielberg's. Like he did this sort of stuff with the sisters where he loved scaring them. The biggest thing was like when they were in the closet and they had them blindfolded and the skeleton popped out. That was full on like stuff that he would, he loved to terrify his sisters and catch it on film. And of course, the guy being Indiana Jones, that's why you had to put all the scare stuffs with bugs in it, and bugs and snakes and everything. It's very much stemming from this. We're seeing the DNA of the classic Spielberg stuff in these moments
sure.
as well. Yeah.
So
yes, everything's recreated flawlessly. Yeah.
All right, it's the following year now. So they're talking about the move, the pressure of the move, and that kind of argument.
Yes, and of course the whole the runner is like, are we gonna leave Benny behind? Now you'll see initially an arc of this where Benny is not left behind at first. We kind of the idea she kind of steamrolled him into bringing Benny.
I love how we kind of have a little bit of a fake out there at first, where we don't think he's in the car, but he is.
I know, it's a great reveal.
And yeah, I mean, with the arguments, you've got to imagine that these family arguments are just like a big, sticking point for him, like in his life. I'm sure it's like probably some of the most, some of the most traumatic stuff that he went through as a kid is just these tense debates in the house.
I'm caught up, by the way. What's your timestamp by chance?
Let's see. My timestamp right now is 1850.
Okay, yeah. So basically, we're pretty close right now. We're at the tornado scene.
Yeah.
Now, honestly,
I actually forgot about the tornado scene. Like, I mean, I remember that a tornado was involved. I forgot how reckless she was, though.
So this is one of the things I really can't verify in terms of this is a scene that to me is a buy, which I don't believe any mother would sanely do this. I mean, even if she was like on the adventurous side, I mean, this feels.
But no. The thing is, she is not doing this for an adventure, though. This is very much a mental health crisis in action right here. This whole thing.
Yeah, and again, it's her kind of acting out with because of the Benny loss. At least the initial. It's kind of like a big gesture to. One could argue it's a big gesture to get her way. It's kind of a tantrum a child would have who want to look through the
Exactly.
Peter
Yeah.
Pan lens here. Yeah.
And it's like it's the first sign that the mother is definitely like mentally unhinged. And of course, that's going to sort of play more and more as the movie goes on.
Admittedly, that's one aspect of this movie is on the money as we get so much of this, especially with also representing with the parents and everything. I do wonder because Spielberg's never spoken to this in public, at least to my knowledge. I don't know because we're saying things about mental health with her in this movie very clearly. Now, I don't know
Mhm.
in real life if that was going on, or if we just kind of did that to explain, just kind of like as a way of adding drama to the wacky things that his mother did in real life. So that I can't tell you.
I mean, I like there's some very specific moments in this movie, mental health wise, that
Yeah,
if they weren't real, then I would be surprised just because they feel so specific.
because that's the thing. I don't know how much that's like a storytelling challenge of like
You've also got to realize that back in the day, like back in the 50s and 60s, mental health, honestly, that whole term like wasn't even a thing. Like it was very possible that his mother had mental health conditions that just went totally undiagnosed.
No, I absolutely agree. It's just he's just never spoken to it. He's always just kind of like that's like one thing. It seems like he hasn't really expressed that until this movie, so that's why I'm a little unclear on like from an accuracy point of view. But it
Uh,
makes sense if it were though, and if he's gonna tell that, it'd probably be
I mean, it's a very sensitive thing to
yeah.
get into. So,
That's what I'm saying. So I don't blame him for that. I'm just saying it's like
yeah.
it's just one thing I can't verify looking at this movie. It's something that's very clearly a big part of this movie with her characters. All we do know is that the Benny stuff is all very accurate. That the real life Arnold Spielberg had a friend, and that friend was very much had it was an unspoken thing. There was no cheating or adultery going on, much like is represented in this film, but there was definitely a connection, and definitely once they were officially divorced, they that's who she went to, which very much the sisters specifically really realized like wow that's really messed up.
So we just saw like what I said, that fake out in the car where it's like all the whole big happy family
And Benny,
and Benny. And
Benny
it's
and
like
the
I
Jet.
love I love Benny's role in this movie just because he's equal parts like the comic relief and also the main source of tension.
Yeah.
Like that's such a delicate role to pull off. Okay, that right there, that
Mhm.
stop, freeze, just such a goddamn good transition.
I'm with you. It's great. Now Spielberg was a Boy Scout in real
Mhm.
life, and that's what. Now what's so darn charming to me with that is the fact that those kids. You remember the kids that we did that whole commentary and everything. Well, not commentary. We did that whole discussion on the Raiders, the greatest fan film ever made. It was a
Yes,
commentary.
yeah.
Yeah, Eric Zala and Chris Stromboli, I think his name was. Yeah, he they were they did this thing in the summer where they had like Boy Scout uniforms and everything, and it just kind of took me back to the fact that it was very by the bootstraps filmmaking of like a bunch
Mhm.
of you and a bunch of your friends just kind of making a movie and kind of turning into this big thing and like the homespun quality of that. And I just it makes sense of why in real life Spielberg called those guys to his offices to congratulate them what they did with that Raiders short film. If you see where he came from at this with his young age, it made him very wistful and nostalgic. You get a sense of
Sure, sure.
especially after seeing all the stuff that Spielberg accomplished with all these films. Like this, it's so funny. This movie is chock full of Spielberg films, but all the Spielberg films you never saw.
Right. And of course, the Boy Scout thing, very much calls to mind Last Crusade, which is arguably one of the biggest like daddy issue Spielberg movies.
Yep.
Certainly in a light-hearted way, but that is one of the bigger themes in that movie.
Okay, now we're about to get to the man who shot Liberty Valance, which is it's a John Ford picture.
I just remember. Do you remember the Looney Tune about this?
No, I don't think so.
No. Oh wait, no. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Who Killed Cock Robin, which is not. I'm sorry. I don't know why I.
That's why I was blanking on it when you brought that up.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking of something completely different.
Yeah.
You know what I'm thinking of though? I'm thinking there was a Simpsons parody of this movie where it was like a. And anyways, it doesn't matter.
Okay, point being, it's funny just given how we're going to end this movie that we have like we're set here planting nice seeds in this movie. So John Ford's on his mind right now, but he's kind of in the background and he's going to pay off majorly. And this is like the first big production that he's doing. The first time he's going to be like an official director versus that train thing in the home movies. It's just kind of more home movies, and this is going to be like an actual story that we're telling here. I don't know why. I love this kid with the glasses. He feels like that's a good friend to give Spielberg right there. I don't know why.
Yeah. I love this whole thing of where he like rented out the stagecoach and it's like,
Mr. Fableman! This is what I'm saying right now. What's going on here? This is really interesting. Where Mr. Fableman, he is in support of what his son's doing right now, but again, he's looking at it as a hobby, but really he's looking at it as like he's helping his son get a merit badge, which is why he's there. He's okay with this, and he's going full tilt with it because he wants his son to have structure in his life and fulfill goals and stuff and all that.
Sure.
So I like that it's kind of a proviso for like the supportive father, even though he is obviously a loving father, supportive father, but he's not quite getting the artistry of the craft.
The tension that I think is so great is the fact that like they use the word hobby as like a dirty word in this movie.
I love that. I love how that comes back. That's yeah. Okay, see all this right here when he's like going to be editing the movie and everything. It's like Vince Gilligan and company's favorite part.
Is it really?
No, I don't know in real life. If
that's did they say that?
No, I'm saying Vince Gilligan, Peter Gould, and all.
Hey guys, we're coming to you, and we just want to say we saw the Fablemans, and there's one part we really want to talk about.
No, seriously, though, like Vince Gilligan, they're all very wistful for film, and they love just the glorification of the old school in which you do an edit. So they
sure, yeah,
the footage, and you have to do all the clippings and pastings and everything. So that is absolutely like Vince Gilligan would go nuts for that. He'd put down the hot dog for that one. He would put down the sandwich, the hot dog, the donut. He put them all down. Says, "Oh,
I don't know about the sandwich, Dragon. The hot dog and the donut, sure. I don't know about the sandwich."
What a great man, Tiki. Enough about the sandwich, or
I mean that's his thing, man. You don't take away Vince's sandwich.
Yep.
All right.
Yes. So. Let's see. So we have Mitzi. So we set up with the artistry here. It's. I believe this was mentioned too in that Spielberg documentary. The whole, the Close Encounters thing, which you had science and you had music. So you had like.
Right. Sure.
The glorified Simon thing. Which we had. The big cross section between the two passions of his parents. So we're kind of showcasing she does play the piano, and right now she's kind of playing it like as Benny's going to go here, like click 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 click, with all the. Oh, we still don't forget about Seth Rogen. Spielberg got such a great performance out of Seth Rogen here.
The only thing that bugs me about Seth Rogen's performance, and I guess it's okay because it's like in character, but he does do a little bit of the.
Well, it's just how he laughs, though.
I know. It's just at this point, I feel like that laugh has become his big trademark.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. No, it is probably his second best performance after Steve Jobs. I'm not gonna say it's a better performance than Steve Jobs, but it's probably his second best.
Yeah, he was really good at Pam and Tommy, though. In terms of film, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. The fact that we have that and we have something like Pam and Tommy is just the fact that Seth Rogen. Showing his dramatic muscles is a really good thing for him here. It's kind of like
like I said, he is towing the line between being like one of the more outwardly comedic characters in the movie and also being the main source of tension, and that is a tricky role.
Yeah. I mean, it's also kind of speaks to, we have so many of our comedy greats who turned in like the best dramatic performances we've ever seen, like Bob Odenkirk or Bryan Cranston and what have you, or Bill Hader.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so it's kind of like good to see kind of layers. It's good to see when we give these actors, we just show them as just actors, period.
I honestly think Rogen's capable of doing like a really, like, I think he's got a Barry in him. I do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Even in like stuff like, for example, American Pickle, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You look at that, and that's a movie where it's a comedy, obviously, but still, it's like seeing him bring out the heart of that movie, like a guy who's kind of like paying tribute to his parents at the end of the day. Like, there's something really kind of nice. There's something really sincere about that.
Sure.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a sincerity that's there, and and Spielberg, I think, saw that, and he brought that sincerity out here. And of course, the big scene, the last scene that he has in the movie, is his best scene in the movie, which we'll get to. And point being, really good. I gotta remember too. That's a real tricky thing for Spielberg to direct. And Seth Rogen spoke to this when he was asked in an interview once that Spielberg was crying on set often because of like how
Oh, I
ridiculously
bet.
nostalgic and like plus he's directing the man who essentially at its core is disillusioned his family to
Now,
it.
do you know if I'm curious? Do you know if there was any reconciliation with him and like not Benny, but the guy that his mother got with? Like, like did it eventually get to a point where he was friendly with him?
Well, that's the thing, Tiki. So yeah, remember Spielberg's parents are on were on really good terms while she was still married to that guy. So
Right.
presumably, I think it stands to reason. Like, yeah, they
Okay.
probably ended. I'm just saying, given the fact that like how his parents reconciled as the years went on, I think it stands to reason he probably would have made peace with that guy.
Sure. Sure.
Plus, I mean, again, like I imagine there might have been some consultancy here with the Bernie Adler's like the real guy's name. So I forget if Seth Rogen actually met the guy or not. Oh, while we're
That's
seeing the
actually one of the closer like one for ones on the name.
yeah, while we're seeing the while we're seeing all the jewelry and as a prop in the movies to mention it, a lot of the jewelry that Mitzi wears is actually from the real Lee Adler. Is actually from Spielberg's mom.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
this occurs to me now. I forget if I mentioned it or not in the background. It's a real shame that his parents. I mean, I hope they lived to see it. At least his father, because I believe his mother passed in 2017. His father passed in 2020.
Uh-huh.
So that's the thing. Based on that, I don't know if they were lucky enough to see the film because they wanted to see it for so long. But
I mean, 2020, it was probably like starting production, but then again, I don't know because of the lockdowns, obviously.
that's the thing. So I mean, I don't think they lived to
I would
see it.
hope that at the very least they were able to read a script.
Well, that's him. I'm sure his mother probably read a draft. The father most likely got the most whatever the most up to date version was because he passed
Uh-huh.
afterwards. But yeah, so also his sisters were involved in the process too. So like the sisters, they were involved. They oversaw everything. So they were the ones like encouraging him to go for certain bits and everything. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this is really nice too. What we just saw here and what's going on between Sam and his father here is the fact that his father is really impressed, not with necessarily the
This is where he's
artistry.
talking about like the team stuff, right?
Well, yeah, the team stuff, but also, yeah, you're right, the team stuff, and basically
Uh-huh.
the whole like the old film trick of like how you have like such flawless kind of flash bangs and like like the gun effects, but if you scratch out the film, like the actual film strip,
That is just a super, super clever, simple little film thing, man.
So based on that, it's kind of nice that his father is really impressed by what his son did from an ingenuity level, from like the fact that he loves that his son is ahead of the curve, but he still doesn't like fully look at it past it as a hobby. So I just love the fact that he sees the potential in his son and he loves it, but he's just still not quite getting it.
Sure, sure, sure.
And right now he's kind of walking him through the whole, like the cost of a hobby. He's using that dirty word, Tiki. Oh, look at that, bad
The
Dano.
H
He's saying
word.
bad Dano. He's using that naughty word. He's saying
Oh my
hobby.
god.
And also he's trying to sell his son on algebra. I love how hurt he is, but like, I hate algebra.
I hate algebra too, Sammy.
Yeah, we all hate algebra.
Algebra is literally the reason I didn't finish college. I feel you, bro.
Of course, I'm sure parents all over the world probably like really annoyed at the fact of like, well, Spielberg didn't go to college.
Yeah,
Really?
right.
When you leave him out of when you make ET, you cannot go to
Oh my
college.
god. Oh
Right.
man. Genuinely though, this movie, like, I'm not saying I'm gonna, pick up a camera anytime soon, but this movie does legitimately give you that sort of like reignite, it reignites your passion for creativity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes you want to go to a theme park and do a parody of Cloverfield.
Ha ha ha. Oh, I appreciate that reference. Anyways.
So
Okay.
this is kind of sad to me, and that's what I'm saying. I love that there's sympathy for our father character here. Where the idea he's doing his darndest here, and he's
He's
trying to
doing his
educate.
best, man. I feel so. This scene honestly
He is
might be the
trying to
most
be.
sympathetic I am towards him.
He is being in the moment here. He is making an effort. He's not just like a distant dad here. He's like, hey,
Exactly. But it's literally like he's just not bred for it as far as like, what Benny brings to the table.
again, he's the breadwinner. The other one knows how to entertain the kids because he's just a little bit more. He's the bubbly song and dance man. And again, in a business setting, they're probably a remarkable pair in terms of he does the legwork and he does the sell. He dumbs it down for the buyer.
Sure.
All this, by the way, again, all the camping footage is all again from one real life, like her swinging on like the tree and everything. All that's like remarkably. Yeah.
So I mentioned the camping thing being like the Jaws of this movie. What do you think of that analogy?
I mean, in terms of it being like the it being the huge plot point, being the thing that is kind of like.
I say it's the Jaws because it's like the looming threat.
I mean, I think Tiki, what you're really looking for is that the editing sequence in which he makes the discovery is Jaws-like, particularly in terms of like.
But I'm saying, like on a rewatch, when you know what's coming, the second that Paul Dano was like, "Oh, we got the camping trip coming out," I'm like, "Oh no, oh that's not good."
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of Jaws-like, but I think more is just Spielberg's signature of like the forebodingness that Jaws was thrived in. So I think it's just kind of that. And Spielberg's had that in other movies like Munich, for example. Like like when like the bomb scene, like
sure. Or like the tank in Private Ryan was a good example. Yeah,
which are all derivatives of Jaws to some degree. Again, Spielberg doing it's basically Spielberg doing a Hitchcock via Jaws. That's essentially what it's the master of suspense kind of thing.
Essentially, yes.
So you're right. Also, a little fun nod. So there's one thing that really made it to that was on the cutting room floor of this. Ultimately, they had to cut out Spielberg's grandfather, which I wasn't able to look out for when I went into this movie. I was expecting Shmuel, but we didn't get Shmuel. Instead, we get Uncle Boris, which is good. But essentially, there's gonna be like a whole thing where
Uncle Boris is memorable, but I've got stuff to say about him being nominated for an Oscar and Paul Dano not.
Okay, well, again, we'll get there, and it's not Hirsch's fault, by the way. I'm sure, he's happy to get.
No, it's not Judd Hirsch's fault. I know that.
This crazy man knows Judd Hirsch.
God.
But yeah. So what was I getting at? All right. So yeah, basically there's gonna be this scene where we experience the loss of the grandfather, and then Sammy was saying he saw like a ghost, and it's supposed to be kind of a thing. Where they kind of ended up they kind of cut that out, which we get to kind of repackaging of that moment later on. I guess the main reason I bring it up is like Spielberg's grandfather Fievel. They were singing in Russian at the campfire for a moment there, which is a nod to his Russian Jewish grandfather, Fievel. Yeah.
Sorry.
So here we go. Now again, they're talking about the IBM of it all. So this is kind of the forebodingness as well, just the fact they're going to be going on diverging paths. And I like that in a friendly way. Like he's not like, he's very much in support of his friend here. Benny is very. I love that everyone adores this father character. Everyone adores Bert,
including the wife, and there's no point that she doesn't.
And again, what we explore later is a really interesting layer of divorce in which it's a divorce in the sense of you stick around because you want the status quo, you want to raise the kids with them, and also it's the fact that sometimes you respect and you really like the person, but you're just not in love with them, which is kind of like that weird, it's like even if you pack the bags, like how can you do this to someone you've dedicated so much of your life with?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It's like emotionally she's packed her bags, but she can't step out the door, and it's not like in like a horrible abusive way or anything. It's just in a sense of like, it's taking the leap, and like how can you have to kick the puppy before you cross the threshold. And Paul Dano's the puppet. It's like a little puppy with glasses.
Okay, so really quick, Benny turning on the headlights, that's one of my favorite moments of filmmaking in the whole movie.
Really? Why is that?
I don't know. I just really love the idea.
Is it just the light thing with Spielberg and it likes the lights? Is that the main reason?
Yeah, that's part of it. I just really love the idea of, this moment, like Benny's kind of like helping him, like kind of guiding him towards like bigger filmmaking ambitions almost with the floodlights. You know
I
what I
gotta
mean?
be honest, I'm of two
Because what you
minds.
just said, that is very much kind of like why I am attached to that moment. Because the Spielberg is very much known for the floodlights. That's kind of one of his signature styles.
I'm of two minds about this scene because I agree with everything that you said. But by the same token, just in context, it's kind of. I mean, in context, you do have the whole thing where it's interesting. Where what we're saying here is like we have our three male characters here, and they're all in connection to the mother character here, and we have like a lot of conflicting things here. Sammy is bearing witness to the events that he's going to then later piece together during the big scene of the movie, and we're seeing kind of the love affair go on between the father and the friend
Oh,
for her. But I mean, I guess that's in context. Out of context, it just feels like yeah, we're kind of stopping and watching the mother do like a
I will
wag
say
like
I'm not crazy about the sister sort of like calling out, like, we can
yeah.
see through your dress.
That's what I'm saying.
I
That's where the
honestly
weird.
think I'm sure that's probably like a real life detail, but I feel like that makes the moment a little bit more awkward than it should be.
That's what I'm saying. You kind of it literally shines a light on the moment of like, yeah, it's kind of, I mean, artistically.
But then again, I mean, that is kind of the point of the scene, is that it kind of shows that, there is artistic beauty there, but there's also kind of a messiness.
Our transition here is a little rough compared to all the other flawless transitions in the movie because we go from like, but then again, it's kind of like a happy, sad sort of thing. So, I mean, I guess it fits. We go from like utter happiness to a big, story wise, like a big crack in Mitzi's mental health, the loss of her mother, which we see
Oh, yeah, big
how
time.
she
Big time.
acts. Again, she barely sees herself as a mother because she's more friend to the kids than mother, which
Mhm.
is something I don't know if we totally represented in the film. It's there for sure, but it's like that was like with the whole the Peter Pan thing in terms of like more friend than mom. But like she is very friendly towards the kids, obviously, but we don't really see the divide aside from that tornado scene, really, of like how that
Sure,
might be a
sure.
problem. So I'll
Well, I
admit,
think the monkey.
well, yeah, but we'll get to the monkey. So
I mean, that's very clearly a Peter Pan thing.
let's talk about something real quick right here, like again, death. Tiki, let's talk about death. We just showcased it so soberingly, and again, I love that we're seeing this. We're going to see this in a very memorable point later in the
Just the
movie.
fact that the three girls are there too. That's what really kind of breaks my heart about this scene. Honestly, you don't really focus on the sisters that much, but the fact that literally the whole family, all the kids, are here to witness this.
But look in terms of how we've arranged them. We have the three daughters, and then we have Sam over to the side there. And Sam, the way he's looking at it, we're going to see this later literalized, but he's looking at it as a director, and this is going to be like Spielberg getting his visual like style in mind here, where he is looking at like how do you express life leaving the body? Well, it's when the pumping stops. So the way we showcase that's really really interesting. So this is fascinating too. The Mansfield editor here, where he is given this gift, seemingly it's a gift with a condition though. It's like, hey, I'm in support of your dreams, son, but I need you to do something for me. Again, this is not a bad thing he's asking to do at all.
I love this tension. Like, obviously, the camping trip film is like the kind of centerpiece of the whole film.
Yeah,
But I love the tension of like Paul Dano, like, like, you're being selfish, do this for your mother. But then ultimately,
he too is being selfish.
right, that, yes. But then also ultimately the fact that Sammy editing this film is going to lead to the downfall of the marriage.
Like
You know
he's
what I mean?
in a sense, the selfishness here is that he's trying to save his marriage by getting his wife again, with probably the 50 standards of mental health here. It's like this will make everything better.
Sure,
And
sure.
on the flip side, though, he thinks this film will make everything better, and ultimately, no, this thing will unravel everything entirely.
Exactly. I love the
There's a lot of
dramatic
dramatic
irony in
irony
that.
applied to the scene here. Of like this will be great, in which it's like don't let him have his shoot. Let him get the 40 Boy Scouts in the, the thing. Yeah. And also, I love that moment with the hug, in which is like, hey, it's a lovely father son moment there, but it's like, hey, I need you to do something for me.
Right.
Yeah. And again, he's using that H word again.
Right.
Naughty Dano, don't use the H. Just imagining like someone Gibbs slapping him.
Oh God.
For those who may not, Gibbs slaps in NCIS runs. Basically, you have like your lead of the show. Some guy makes a goofy remark, and you slap him on the back of the head like Gibbs. Yeah. like a give slap.
All right. Thanks for clarifying that.
Like when you it's like when you skim the rocks or like slap on the back of the head,
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, now this scene I do take umbrage with. Okay, this
is actually, I was going to ask you about this because I was going to say, like, this feels like an oddly specific memory.
I know, exactly. So that's the thing. So again, I can't verify, but it doesn't feel like this is the only reason to put this in the movie would have to be it was probably told like from his mother to him, like, yeah, I imagine that we got this call right before Uncle Boris showed up. And otherwise, it's such a bizarre scene to include in the movie. It had to be real.
Dragon, I honestly think I appreciate the scene a little bit more than you do, because for me, I feel like it's a good sort of stepping stone to show just how unhinged the death of her mother has made her.
I mean, I guess ultimately, I don't think you're wrong about that. It's just again, it's like an in context,
and also the ambiguity of like she did just wake up, so she could be half asleep, but she could also be very lucid. You don't really know. You know what I mean?
That's fair. But here's what bothers me. Okay, here's the thing, though. We hear the other side of it. That's where the reality kind of breaks for me, though, is the fact that we heard someone on the other line.
Yeah.
If we didn't hear someone on the other line, I'd be in full.
I hear you. I don't know, but then we hear the dial tone when Dano takes the phone. I don't know. I just think that's a stylistic choice that didn't really bother me.
It's not a big gripe. I'm just saying it's like of all the things, it's like the one thing, like, I don't know if I buy that phone call in the middle of the night scene. But again, it feels like obviously either very specific to real life or for the reasons you said. So sure. Okay, now so Uncle Boris is a real guy. In case you're curious, Boris is real. When I saw this movie for the first time, I thought he was like a fill-in for the grandfather. So no, but there was an Uncle Boris. He was in the circus. He didn't go.
Is his name actually Boris?
Yeah, I believe Uncle. Yeah.
Oh, really? He's like the one family member that actually gets named. That's funny.
That is, yeah, because it's such a kind of like an analogous kind of name. So yeah, if I understand. Then again,
and of course, when I think Boris, I think Rugrats as well. So
to be fair, though, I mean, Spielberg was like asked, like, is Uncle Boris a real guy, and he answered. So I don't know if that was just him, like, just saying, yeah, Uncle Boris is a real guy, or if that was him saying, yes, there was an actual Uncle Boris. So maybe it's the same name, maybe it's not. But yes, the great Judd Hirsch has entered the movie
for 2 scenes.
Yeah, but 2 effective.
He's going to get an Oscar nomination for.
Well, he did have one really standout scene.
Okay, let me make this clear. His performance is wonderful. All right, I'm not saying that it's not wonderful, and he is like the big scene that he does have with Sammy.
It's one of the linchpins of the movie.
It is one of the linchpins of the movie. Sure. That being said, out of all the main cast members in this film, like the main adult ones at least, I think he was probably at the bottom as far as like who to nominate. Like, I would certainly not. I mean, then again, with Paul Dano, I'm not sure. Like, do you think Paul Dano would be considered lead or supporting?
I gotta be crazy. I'm gonna be crazy. I know Dano got some nomination. I don't know if are you sure he didn't get he wasn't nominated.
I'm pretty damn sure, but let me look it up.
I could have sworn he got nominated, but I could be wrong. I know he got nominated for one of the award shows. I assume it was the Oscars. I know Michelle Williams got nominated.
Let me look it up.
That's why I'm doubting it, but
he got nominated for basically everything except the fucking Oscar.
Okay, that's why I'm blanking on it.
So like SAG, Golden Globe.
Okay.
BAFTA.
You can understand the confusion there.
I mean, yeah, but not the Oscar.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's
And then also, I would say like Seth Rogen. I would probably throw a nomination Seth Rogen's way over Judd Hirsch.
But ultimately, it wasn't it stiff competition that year for the sporting though. Aside from Judd Hirsch,
it was stiff competition. Yeah. Yeah,
but here's the thing. Even if Dano got it, do you think he would have won?
I mean, you got to remember that was also Ki Kwan's year. Like he pretty much had that award on lockdown, basically from right when the movie came out.
Look, you're right. A nomination would have been nice, but I mean, we kind of knew it was Ki Kwan's year. It wouldn't really.
Dragon, I just like with these characters that have.
I mean,
such
honestly, it's a
small
legacy
roles.
thing too. Of like, Judd Hirsch, I don't think he's ever been. Judd Hirsch is usually a TV guy. I don't think he's ever really got.
I'm pretty sure it is his first nomination. You're right.
Plus, I mean, it's like the fact Dano's going to be. Dano's a young man. I mean, fingers crossed, he'll be around for a long time. So
See,
young, fine, comparatively.
now I'm curious. How old is Paul Dano?
Compared to
38 years old. Oh, that is young. That is young.
At the bare minimum,
He's only like 5 years older than me. Yeah, that is young.
So comparatively, even just compared to Judd Hirsch, he's still a young man. So anyway, okay. So this
actually, I'm kind of surprised he's that young. Anyways, I'm surprised he's under 40.
Yeah, well, you did. Yeah, he's very young, Diggy.
Yeah. I'm just saying he's been around for a long time. So, like,
I mean, you saw him in that Prisoners movie. He was a young man in that.
In Prisoners? I mean, yeah, I saw him in Prisoners. I saw him in There Will Be Blood all the way back in 2007.
Well, there you go.
I mean, Little Miss Sunshine, he did literally play a teenager in that movie.
That's what I'm saying. Look at it, man. It's like,
yeah.
Oh, man. Okay.
Okay.
So yes, point. We have a big linchpin scene going on here. And now, again, assumingly a conversation like this happened. I don't know if it was like literally them while they were bunking with each other when he stayed. So this might be embellishment. But the majority of which you have a sense for Uncle Boris gave him some really good life advice here.
Uh-huh.
So the whole, like two sides of himself here, family and art, and I love how like what Judd Hirsch is doing. Essentially, what Spielberg did, from what I understand, is he just let Judd Hirsch just kind of feel out the role and just kind of come the set and do his thing based on how he interpreted the material. Like apparently the real Uncle Boris was like very thick, accent. You could barely understand him, so he kind of like made it a little bit more sage-like here.
Yeah, also, Dragon, my dad just walked through the door, so if I mute myself, it's because he's having a conversation outside my room, so okay. I apologize. Anyways.
But yes, so this whole thing here about, he sees that, Mitzi was, is an artist like him, but she had to kind of give up on her dreams. It's not too late for him, and he should. Basically, an artistry that runs in their side of the family.
I also really, what I do love about this scene is that I really appreciate kind of like the bookend quality that it has with the eventual David Lynch scene. Because, basically it's saying like art is a son of a bitch and it will destroy you, but it's also kind of worth it.
Yeah, and it's also like I love that it's very much a warning. Like when he pinches the face here, it's like every time you hear someone say "hobby," remember that feeling.
Right. That is a very dramatic lesson, but an effective lesson. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it says every time you remember all the hardships and everything, remember how that felt, because that's the life that you're choosing right now. So it's very much like, hey, it's worth it, but it's going to hurt like heck.
All right. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Dragon, it's a great performance. It's just a very, very short performance. And I realize that there are people that have been nominated for Oscars for around 15 minutes of screen time. I don't know. Have you looked into, I don't suppose you've looked into is this one of the shortest amounts of screen time that we've had for someone nominated for an Oscar? I'd be curious to look up the data.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, when I think of the Oscar runtime, you have Hannibal Lecter at 17 minutes. So,
right, and Hannibal Lecter has way more screen time than this guy.
That's the thing, though. It's 17 minutes, which is obviously more than 2 scenes. Technically 3.
Was also wasn't that technically a lead actor too?
Yeah, that was lead actor. Yeah,
that's crazy. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so let's see. So right now here too, he's also prognosticating the future of Steven Spielberg too. Basically, you're going to be going through a whole bunch of, basically you're going to go through Jaws.
Right.
He's basically saying
there's going to be a shark. It's never going to work. It's going to be a fucking nightmare.
Instead of being in the mouth of a lion, it's going to be in the mouth of a shark.
What? You never saw someone with nobody grieving before?
So this is funny to you. This is actually something in the Jewish faith, that they actually rip your shirt and you sleep on the floor when you lose somebody.
This shirt rip, I did not know that was a Jewish thing.
Yeah,
but
no,
that does I have definitely done the shirt rip before in moments of distress.
Well, that's the thing. It's not like a
Not
distress.
as dramatically, but I have a couple shirts that I have kind of torn the color of.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So this is not like. So apparently, it's. I initially thought it was just like him doing like a dramatic bit for comedy, but no. Apparently, when you're like kind of in Shiva here, you do like a little rip, and then you sleep on the floor. The reason you sleep on the floor is to be like it's like a whole 7 feet to where the dead are buried, sort of thing. That's why you're sleeping on the floor.
Mm.
You know, to be close to them while their souls are still there or something.
Mhm.
I forget if it's like 7 days or like seven. It'd be like 7 feet. The point being, you sleep there for a while. Anyway, yeah. So the point being, he's prognosticating like what the end of the movie is. Where essentially you're going to be Universal for a while, and eventually one day they're going to tell you to hop on the elephant, and hop on the elephant is Jaws.
Right.
Yeah. Of course, here he gives him that look. Art, family, bum bum. I just want to call this out too with Reggie here. I love the look on Reggie with the fact that she wears the glasses, and she's like, I don't know, just her looks. I like how each of the sisters stands out. You have the
I
youngest.
feel like she's the most period accurate look with the glasses and everything.
Yeah. The other one looks like the stunt double for Millie Bobby Brown.
Kind of, now that you mention it.
But no, not a knock or anything. I'm just saying in terms of like if I visually, she
You mean the
reminds me
middle one?
Yeah, middle one.
Uh-huh.
Just
Oh,
visually,
man.
she kind of reminds me a little bit of Millie Bobby Brown. Just kind of.
Okay, this is the scene, right?
Yeah, actually, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love how the most suspenseful moment of the movie is literally punctuated by diegetic piano music.
Yep. She's underscoring the solution of her family.
Mm-hmm.
So again, all this footage here, all this camping trip footage, again, also real life. All this, like all these shots and everything, full on. Now the hand holding thing, given it's a plot point, I imagine stuff like that happened. Spielberg probably caught that retroactively. I don't know if he caught it like very dramatically all in one moment that it realizes. So that element of the movie is probably just more for storytelling. The fact that I'm sure, like,
I mean, even beyond the hand holding, though, there's some freeze frames of like certain glances and looks and stuff that really tell the story.
I mean, I really do wish I could tell you if like Spielberg, like this was like a moment he actually had, just given how significant it is to the story of this film. But most likely, what happened is like when told about the divorce. I mean, given that we know about the dad issues that Spielberg has, I don't think
when told about the divorce, he probably went back through the footage.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, just in general, in real life, I imagine what happens, given the relationship he had with his father, is that, they were told about the divorce, and the way in real life that this movie kind of deviates from a little bit with the fact that we're being a little bit more fair to the parents in hindsight, and we're not really taking sides and everything, is the fact that they were under the belief the father took all the blame to protect the mother.
Right,
That's what
right,
happened in
right,
real life.
yeah.
So that's what poisoned kind of the father in his eyes and in the family's eyes. Before they learned later that probably when she ended up in a relationship with Benny in real life, they realized like, okay, so this is why the relationship really broke up, and that's probably when they got a clearer picture as to what happened versus like going through the editing and stuff. But it's not to say those moments weren't captured on film. It's the question. Maybe Spielberg now looking back and after learning that revelation, like, oh, that's where it was there the whole time.
I mean, it's a brilliant conceit, though. It's a brilliant set piece. It really is.
And if you are going to if we are going to recontextualize things slightly, if Spielberg's going to have a chance to tell his life story, as you go back in time, like if I knew what I knew then now, and basically the way I feel about my parents now, I'm going to express that in a very visual, really way it complements my character's interest in film. I should probably do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's going through film constantly. He would be making the home movies of the camping trip. So if he's doing that, we're adding like elements of like the father wants.
Was the camping trip an actual thing that happened? Yeah, it was, because you said that.
Yeah,
you said that there was the home movie footage. Yeah,
there's a home movie footage of them going camping. So all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But the idea of the father saying like pressing him to maybe do this, like to cheer his mother up, that may or may not have been real. That might have just been for the movie. This is they kind of link the events together in a nice kind of nice flowing way.
Mm-hmm.
It works flawlessly. Again, it's the big standout point of the film. I was in the theaters like, oh my god, this storytelling is riveting. Look at this.
I would wager to say this might be one of the best directed Spielberg thing scenes of the of the new century so far.
Yeah, and we do this roughly at it's probably about 2 minutes or so away from, but we have this revelation at the hour mark in the movie, so it's
Mm-hmm.
very very significant. But again, I love that. It's kind of the keen eye and storytelling. It's going to get It's going to take Sammy / Spielberg far, and he's just kind of realizing it right now. We get to see kind of the birth of, but in the most painful way possible. He's getting this knack for what's going to take him so far.
The whole thing about like subtle looks and exchanges and
Yeah,
glances with actors.
precisely. Yes. And also, even in the interim, what we do have in this movie right now, instantly, is that okay? He has this revelation, and he's expressing it to the actor when he's shooting the war movie, when he's shooting From Here to Nowhere, Escape to Nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like it's on his mind, and that's why he's like, you see that thing where he's well, it hasn't happened yet, but when he's directing the kid.
Oh, right. Hold on. Right here. This moment right here. This glance. This like the smile, but then kind of like the hesitation of like. You kind of see in that moment that Michelle Williams is kind of like right there. That Michelle Williams kind of realizing like, oh shit, I think I'm falling in love with this guy, and that is a big problem.
Oh yeah, exactly.
I love how it's a literal jump scare for Sam.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's when he's fully like putting it together. Like, oh yeah, she loves this guy too. She digs him. It's not just like you being like a physically.
And meanwhile, she's just playing like melancholic piano music.
Just playing my sad piano over here. And okay, I stand corrected slightly here. So you see Paul Dano working on radios a little bit in that scene, like in the background, a little bit.
There's a couple shots.
It's not work. It's still not working or anything. Ultimately, he's just holding a screwdriver. But
oh my god.
It's like not even a screwdriver. Was that a pencil or like I missed it?
I think it's a pencil.
What I'm saying, it's like still. But you know what? In all seriousness, though, it does kind of speak. There is a distance between them there, and like she's looking pretty sad, as opposed to like him just kind of doing his thing and kind of being either ignoring it or like being kind of a little, like non-perceptive to it.
Like I said, my thing throughout the whole movie with his performance that I read is that he, in the back of his head, he knows what's going on, but he desperately does not want to acknowledge it either to himself and especially not to anyone else.
Yeah. Doing all this sort of stuff there. I mean, the biggest thing is from the home movie footage is like her like leaning on the tree and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, so here we're having seemingly kind of like should be a happy moment, but again, I love how Sam's the one who knows like the layers here now, how much this really means to her, and like he's very conflicted now about his feelings towards his mother.
Sure.
Which again, big shift most likely from real life, but it's kind of interesting. And I wonder how much of that is like Spielberg kind of in the years in which he's been writing this movie, preparing for this movie, is like him reevaluating his relationships with his parents and thinking like, had I known this then, how would I have responded to it? So again, this one, it's been a while since you've shown up. I kind of mentioned this briefly, but again, the actor who plays Sammy here again, Gabriel LaBelle. He did this intentionally with like kind of like a lot of his mouth shapes when he was acting and reacting to people. He just looks so uncannily like the young Steven Spielberg, especially when he smiles and he laughs and stuff. He looks just like him. It's uncanny. Sure.
By the way, we passed it, but I really appreciate the fact that his Western was named Gunsmog.
Oh yeah, you're right. We should have mentioned that. So that's thing. So now, okay, so we moved on from Gunsmog, to Escape to Nowhere, this is a big one for him. This is famously, we're seeing the montage here, and this is one of the things I always remember, that when Spielberg made his own movies, he did this little trick where we see like the little firecrackers, but more so the little seesaws where you have like dirt, so it looks like someone's like shot you right from behind. You hit the seesaw and then you fall to look like you got shot. Oh, this is really cool. I should tell you this. I was waiting until we get to the section to tell you. So, Fun fact: when they recreated and shot all this, At least the large majority of the footage actually, he's holding a working camera, so he's actually taking footage of all this. Now, I imagine in the editing, they're really making it like they're kind of polishing it a little bit here. So I'm sure it's not like one for one every single frame of film that he is shooting here, but all the film they use for those home movies and everything and all this sort of stuff is that kid actually filming this, and he was allowed to keep the camera.
Oh wow.
And this again, Spielberg's given him the literal cameras and types of cameras that he used when he made those films, and basically he was allowed to keep that because he shot all this footage. It was like a nice little passing of the torch sort of thing.
All right, so this scene right here, very clearly his first like big moment of acting direction.
Yeah. Now, fun fact. So here's something we kind of took the inspiration of and we put it later in the movie, but it happened in real life during this moment. So in real life, he directed his bully. So this guy in real life was a
okay.
character.
That's kind of interesting that you mention it because I do definitely see like the parallel between the bully and this character. Like, not that this guy's a jerk at all, but
no, of course not.
But it's very much kind of like that sort of, him manipulating reality in a way.
Yeah, so I can't tell you if maybe it was like a thing where it was just two bully characters and they just didn't want to be repetitious, or if it was just the fact that, okay, we took the bully thing, it's going to happen later, but we kind of spliced it in two scenes here where he's directing his bully as a means of getting him to kind of not bully him anymore. And
that one exchange with the bully, by the way, the kind of the resolution to that storyline, I think is like pretty definitively the second best moment in the film.
I concur. It is a very flawless scene, and we'll get there. But yeah, so again, him directing his actor here, you'll notice what he does here is kind of like an E.T. sort of thing. When you saw when he directed E.T., he was very much, he was forging relationships with those kids.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, he shot E.T. in sequence too, right?
Yeah, he did that so the kids would actually feel like the loss and the goodbye.
Exactly.
And everything. So here's the thing, but you saw right now, he like sniffled when the guy sniffled. That's just like him again. He's like an empathetic director in which like the emotions are shared between them. And he's like it's almost like a horse whisperer sort of thing, which you would make a movie called War Horse, so it works.
War Horse.
Yeah. Look at the very handmade dolly. It's like a baby stroller with like an apple box or something on it, like an apple crate, and the Bowflex, or I think it's the Bowflex, whatever version of the old cameras.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, seriously, they keep changing cameras, so I don't know if this is the Bowflex is the one he starts with.
The bow thing, it's not a Bowflex because that's like literally like a piece of exercise equipment. But I think what you're thinking of is the camera that his girlfriend's dad lets him borrow.
No, that's the Arrow. No, actually, there is a camera called the Bowflex, but he started with the Bowflex, and then he ended on the one you're talking about is the Arrow.
Did the exercise machine rip off that camera then?
I don't know.
Because I know for a fact there's an exercise machine called the Bowflex.
So if it's not Bowflex, it's Bolo. I assume Bowflex. Anyway, but yeah, so
Angelo is like, I kind of wish they would have lingered on this just a little bit more, like Angelo being so caught in the moment that he's not even like, he's unable to get out of character.
This is the thing that actually happened on the set because Spielberg was getting so emotional and nostalgic, he did too forget to yell cut sometimes. Yeah, this movie did a number on him, which again is kind of leading credence to the whole, like, I mean, if Spielberg hung it up, if he did. So yes, here it goes. I love the fact that it's like, don't get me wrong, his production values obviously are continuing to improve, but I love that really the audience is getting really enamored by the performance too.
Yeah, totally.
They gave that kid really good direction too in terms of what the direction was. It wasn't just like, okay, always gotta give him something to say to him, but like, yeah, actually, it fits.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there's that trifecta. We have the two male figures in his life, and as we on So You Want to Be Imagined, you always support the quirky blonde character.
Yes.
We have So You Want to Be Imagined, you love our quirky blonde mother figures. We love them, but particularly the quirky blonde figures.
I mean, not just mother figures, Dragon. I feel that like that extends to like Helga Pataki would fit that role,
and Kim Wexler.
Right.
Yeah, we love our quirky blondes on So You Want to Be Imagined. It's like the Hitchcock blondes, only more niche.
Yeah, and we're not like monsters to them.
That's true. Yeah. It's always weird because we have like the Hitchcock movie, which I think is actually a good service to the blondes and everything, and the minutia of that relationship. Then you have like the one that you saw that biopic with God, blank of the actor who played Armanzola.
Oh, Toby Jones.
Toby Jones as Hitchcock. That's the one with Tippi Hedren about the making of the birds. You see that?
I don't think I have. No, I
Yeah,
would have. That sounds interesting to me, though, because, Bodega Bay, literally kind of in my backyard, so I should seek that out.
So that film shows the more negative interaction with the Hitchcock blonde, with
Okay.
all the stuff that he did, the Tippi Hedren. So
That's kind of like what I was hoping for the Hopkins movie to be like, so I should check that out.
That's, I mean, yeah, it sounds like that's more what you were looking for versus Hitchcock, where I like what Hitchcock did.
And I honestly think the Hopkins Hitchcock movie is one of the most milquetoast modern biopics I have seen.
Okay, that's a little.
I'm sorry.
Milquetoast, really?
It is pretty milquetoast.
I mean, anyway, yeah. The only thing I didn't like.
It's pretty bland, Dragon. I don't know what to tell you.
The only thing I didn't like was a subplot in Hitchcock, but anyway,
which took up a big chunk of the movie.
You're not wrong. You're not. I don't disagree. Anyway, okay, we're seeing Tiki. We're seeing a rift form. Look at the rift. There it is, right there.
A rift between a son and his mother.
Yep.
And you know where he's going to, Dragon?
His biological father.
Yes, exactly.
but also, I love that as he walks past Penny and the mother is kind of feeling something. But here's the thing, again, it feels like a retroactive thing where, again, looking at things historically, just like how he would have responded to him, it's like, hey, he would maybe be more in support of his father. He's going to go into his father in this moment versus the mother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And look who she's going home with. That Rogan-looking guy.
Rogan!
Elder Rogan, not the one with the talk show. Or the podcast, more accurately. Of course, here I like that we have like two scenes that kind of like, yeah, we kind of inch towards Jaws. We don't go there. Maybe a sequel, but we kind of have.
I was gonna say, I think if there was a sequel to this movie, it would very much be like, it would kind of start with him like sneaking into the back lot and essentially
he's on the back. He doesn't have to sneak on there. He's on the back lot.
Damn it! I want to see him sneaking onto the back lot, though. That's one of the few things this movie skips over that I'm bummed about.
But still, though, seriously, there actually are talks right now of the question of a sequel was brought up, and Spielberg is not. He's open to doing a sequel, but again, it have to be something personal, not just like do a sequel because money. Don't.
Oh, of course. Well, I mean, if they were to do a sequel to this, it would not be because of the money.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, you're right. basically, do a sequel because we need Spielberg movies. Like, just don't do a sequels to keep putting them out. Just like,
right.
Plus, thing Spielberg, I think he's only done one other sequel with Jurassic Park. It's like the only time he's ever.
I'm pretty sure you're right about that. Yeah,
it would be.
Well, I mean that in the indie movies, of course.
Oh yeah, sorry, you're right. Yeah, yeah. To be fair, he had no choice for this indie sequel. He promised George Lucas he would.
Right.
That wasn't like a choice, though. Anyway, but yeah, you're right, though. So the fact is, if you did go back, you would have. For me, I think the layout's pretty simple. You'd have, the opening of him in the TV years, which we set up at the end of this, and then you'd have Jaws being the majority, with the Jaws being the biggest challenge ever, and then of course the payoff, third act being the payoff to the success of Jaws.
Sure.
But yeah, so we have the.
And honestly, Dragon, if you want to do the third movie, because honestly, I do think you could. I think the third movie would be kind of like, him battling the reputation of being the popcorn director and trying to make saving, Schindler's List and everything.
Yeah, that's himself. But then you'd have to like, okay, so we're gonna have to remake Schindler's List.
Oh my god.
There's only so much. That's a thing. Jaws is one thing. Everyone loves Jaws, and they love the behind the scenes of Jaws.
I legitimately would not be surprised if at some point, even if it's not directly attached to the Fablemans, if it's just a straight up Spielberg biopic, I would not be surprised if we get a movie about the making of Jaws someday.
Exactly.
I really
Jaws is the story that actually because that's like one of the making of a movie stories right there. I mean, Jaws is like man versus fish, but it's a robot.
Yeah, I mean, but I kind of feel like there is story to be mined from him working on Jurassic Park and I want to say, I keep wanting to say Private Ryan and Schindler's List at the same time.
No, you're right. That's exactly. There's a movie to be had there too. I agree. But yeah, it's just gonna be more of like, well, man, we're gonna have to really dig deep to really have to represent one of the best movies ever made.
It's Oscar Schindler.
Oscar Schindler. The de-aged Liam Neeson.
That is still one of the
I'm
most.
kidding. I'm kidding. We're not actually going to DH William
Oh
Neeson.
God, that is still one of the most like hard podcasts that I've ever had to record. Is the commentary for Schindler's List. Man, that was like. I'm not saying I didn't like. I'm not saying I wasn't glad that I saw the movie, but holy shit, that was tough to talk through.
All right. So what's going on here? Again, we're paying off the little kind of like the closet scene here, where we're showing you the footage, and this is always a brilliant conceit of the movie. The fact that we're getting, again, a lot of this is probably dramatic license too. To be fair, the whole thing of like, I don't know if she actually hit him in real life. Every parent's at least back in the day, probably in the 50s, like I think they were considerably lucky. The family they came up and they were not abused more like most 50s families would.
Uh huh.
But I don't know if like a slap initiated this sort of thing. I don't know if he artistically just kind of showed the film to explain to her like dialogueless kind of exchange, just like showed her the movie and she got it. And we're playing it on Michelle Williams' face really well right now. She's kind of like having the catharsis of like, I'm in love with Benny,
Right.
and
Right.
my children know it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty heavy.
Yep. Anyway, so yeah, with the jaw, so like it's like a life. It's kind of like the CPR badge, so we have to be in the pool. So we're kind of putting Spielberg in water. We have a negative memory associated with water, and then we're gonna
Oh
go to
dear.
the beach, and at the beach we have a memory that ultimately will be negative associated with water at the beach.
Okay, when I think negative memories associated with water and Spielberg, I just think of that damn pool scene from AI.
Right. Which again, pool certification for the CPR. Well, prognostication.
I still remember. I was so relieved when you said you also found that scene to be very traumatic.
Yeah.
Oh, that scene messed me up when I was a kid. Anyways,
So again, here seeing kind of the mother and son kind of rebonded together. It's pretty good.
hmm
It's almost like this director knows what he's doing.
what's up? Oh wow, are we at Benny's scene? A final
Yeah,
scene already?
yeah, we're at Benny's
Damn,
final.
this movie's flying by.
So okay, a couple things here. So again, in real life, what scared Sammy off from directing was what scared Spielberg off from directing for a bit. It was a very brief period of time too. It wasn't as big a gap as we kind of have in this movie. They show this very well in the HBO documentary on Spielberg. He saw, and I gotta be honest, there's one. It's a cut that I understand why they made in the movie, but I was always saying I really wanted to see. I was on the edge of my seat, wondering, are we going to see the scene? Because we saw The Greatest Show on Earth for a moment. I was thinking, is it going to be the David Lean film? Is it going to be Lawrence of Arabia? No, it wasn't.
Mhm.
But it makes sense because that was his first movie. He was like a 7-year-old, not the teenager. So, point being, in real life he saw Lawrence of Arabia and he was blown away thinking no one's ever going to top if this is the direction we're going. David Lean's at the top of his craft. I'm never going to top this. And then he saw the movie again the week after and he saw new things. He saw themes in the movie and he basically was re-inspired. And then he picked up the camera again, like after like 3 weeks. So again, here we kind of give a more dramatic story in story reason for why he would kind of hang things up because he has conflicted feelings about making movies because the last movie he made kind of disillusioned him about his own family.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like if the editing thing with the home movies was fictionalized, I mean, it's a damn effective use of screenplay
Yeah, I
because
mean, most
it
likely it is.
really just the wrinkles of the effects of it just weave their way throughout literally the whole rest of the film.
So Seth Rogen here's doing some amazing acting, and that Spielberg guy, he knows what he's doing here. He's he's bringing it up here. I love this whole thing of like because of me, and then just him. He's trying to be really supportive here. He's not being combative, and he's just saying that like he loves the family, and he doesn't want him to give up because it's going to hurt his mother if he does this.
Uh-huh.
And I love it again. He's just think all the bad things you want about me, but just don't stop pursuing your dreams all because I ruined that for you. Don't do that. Just the sincerity and honesty coming out of this performance is just really good. And again, the idea Seth Rogen, I have no idea if Seth Rogen has kids in real life or not, but I like how he's just kind of the idea of like him kind of having this kind of this not father figure dynamics, maybe not the right term for this, but like there's kind of like a
He's like a would-be non-biological father.
sure. Well, we have this like really mature bit right here where he gets the whole I'll buy the camera from you. It's the only way he can take this camera and take what he's saying to heart. But then we have this hug, and he's like in like the old kind of savvy uncle way. He kind of slipped him the cash. He slipped it in there.
Okay, I just looked it up. Seth Rogen literally credits his success to not having children.
Huh?
Well, he does not have kids.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
So
I'm also remembering that Muppet gag in Muppets Now where he's talking about the baby. So.
right. Yeah. Well, I mean, Muppets Now is, of course, the go-to source for everything. I mean, that show is. Wait, I can't even finish that sentence. Anyway.
Right. So yeah.
So this is my neck of the woods.
Is it?
It's literally Northern California. I've probably driven by some of these trees.
See, another part of me would love in a sequel to see him befriend George Lucas. I would really love to see that. I want to see him cast the young George Lucas.
Well, I mean, you know how we do that, though. We have a Brat Pack biopic.
I know. I want that. I still want.
I know. I feel like The Offer was a good kind of stepping stone towards getting that.
It really was, because we did get for Coppola there, and we actually have a really good actor cast as Coppola for that. But then again, he's kind of more the if we just jumped into like them kind of in the pinnacle of their success, probably would still work. So we could probably. Anyway, I still say Adam. I think Adam Scott. Adam Scott as George Lucas would be my pick because he loves Star Wars and be kind of like a cool role for him. And I could buy him as a young George Lucas. But we have to give him the beard though.
I could actually see Schwartzman
as Lucas.
As Lucas, yeah.
I mean,
as a young Lucas.
I don't know. I don't know if I could see him as young Lucas. I don't know.
Just give him the beard. I don't know.
I mean, you're right. That's like give everyone the beard. We can't. It's kind of hard. We need bearded actors to really get them.
Well, no, I'm saying you don't want to just cast that role based on who has a George Lucas looking beard.
No, I know. I'm just saying that's I'm just saying that's why it's difficult to cast George Lucas because the beard is like the thing. Plus, certain actors grow beards, you know. Then you have to work on the fake beard, the whole thing, you know.
I don't know. Schwartzman, I just kind of think has the cadence of young Lucas.
I don't. That's
like the nervous energy.
I mean, maybe, but George Lucas was less nervous energy. He was more just kind of like a shy, quiet guy.
True.
That's the thing. I don't know if Schwartzman has like the George Lucas mumble. That's the.
Yeah, I could see that.
Adam Scott's like a diehard Star Wars fan, and I could buy if he. I don't know if you ever watched much.
I mean, I really don't think being a Star Wars fan should be a prerequisite.
No, I know. I was getting to. I don't know if you've seen any Adam Scott stuff. If you hear,
I'm looking into him.
If you hear how he sounds, I think he can maybe. He has kind of like a bit of like the more understated kind of Lucas.
Oh, look at that! It's the main fucking character in Severance, the show that I can't watch because Apple TV Plus is dumb.
Well, apparently, Jacob, I'm going to voice my frustrations with Jacob. Jacob, apparently, a very ill-timed way, he shared that you might have a loophole for that, Tiki, that he's explained to you that you have not listened to, apparently.
Okay.
apparently there's a loophole for Apple, and I guess we'll take him to task on that to see if he has no idea what he's talking about.
I mean, is the loophole the same loophole that you were talking about, where it's like you have to get an Apple device and sign in?
No. That's the thing. He says he told us that there's like you can somehow get an Apple ID without using a device.
Because I mean, like you know me, like you know my story, man. I tried multiple times, multiple different cards. My payment literally wouldn't go through. That was the fucking problem.
Right, well, that's the thing. It says it sounds like Jacob says we just need an Apple ID to use it without an Apple device.
All right, well, let's.
Yeah. I'm just saying. I think he brought that up at the worst possible time. By the way, when that came up on a podcast, so it goes on.
Anyways, let's not call. I feel like now we're calling out Jacob at the worst possible time. So.
I know. Yeah, it's revenge. Okay.
Right.
It's gonna be really dumb when he said Jack Robinson. I mean, do you think he's actually talking about Jackie Robinson, or is just like he's like a weird abbreviation on Jackie Robinson?
I don't know.
Because that's the thing. When you hear Jack Robinson, I mean, it's kind of hard not to think of Jackie Robinson. So no one would be like, "Who the heck is Jack Robinson?" All right, so we enter the high school. Tiki, we're entering the high school years.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
It's like we got parachuted to the land of the giant sequoia people. I love that. That's probably one of my favorite comedic lines in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting volleyball foreshadow.
Yep.
Oh, man. This scene always just kind of gives me secondhand anxiety about, PE was fucking brutal for me.
Plus, this isn't just P. This is like, well, I guess by this point in time,
this is 60s P, man.
Yeah, 60s P.
They don't fuck around.
Bro, we have that line where he gets hit right in the smack dab in the face of the ball, and we have like,
and then somehow blamed for it.
Well, no, it's not he's blamed for it. Well, that's what's with the net. But I just mean when he gets hit in the face with the ball, we have this thing where the gym teacher so callously says it's a what is it? It's a volleyball, not a cannonball.
Right.
Why don't you try getting hit in the face with this, Bob? Huh?
Dude, could you imagine if a coach tried to say that now and someone filmed it and it's like, neglectful teacher, he's putting his students in danger.
Everyone's fragile now.
Yup.
Back in the day, the generation of our fathers, they were they did not have it easy.
This is very true.
Okay, I want to mention, so this kid playing Logan, he's a recent actor. Is he? Yeah, he's brand new. I think this is the second movie he's ever done.
Oh wow,
he is. I gotta tell you,
he's really damn good.
I know, right? I
really fucking.
Here's
good.
what I think when I see this actor, man, especially rewatching the movie. The guy playing Logan, he'd be perfect for Flash Thompson. He'd be the most perfect.
Oh, absolutely, no doubt. Yeah, for sure.
That's what I'm saying. It's like I look at him, it's like, Tony Revolori. Why couldn't you be this guy? Come on.
I feel like you give Tony Revolori a hard time.
But Revolori is a great actor, but he could have been Harry Osborn. He did not need to be Flash Thompson. It's like, why?
Also, we got Sonia Pantoja in the comments just saying hi. Hiya, Sonia. Hope you're enjoying this conversation. Anyways,
we didn't get a comment after all.
Yeah, just now. I just happened to look.
This guy's a real creep. He's such a weaselly little toadstool.
This guy is like way, way worse than Logan, I think.
Yeah. Oh, no, but that's the point, Tiki. He is. Like, he's the actual. The thing is, Logan is like, he's the jock which you point to is like, you're thinking, okay, he's going to be he's the Biff Tannen here. Where in reality, it's that little Weasley, this Cletus Cassidy looking at.
Cletus, he is Cletus. That's a great pool. He is Cletus Cassidy.
Cletus Cassidy, the high school. plus he's anti-Semitic, which I mean, I know Cletus Cassidy is more just kind of like Southern, more just like hurtful in other ways, I'm sure, but not I could buy anti-Semitism from Cletus Cassidy.
I could totally see that guy as a young Cletus Cassidy. I could totally buy that. And here we have a monkey.
Yep. Now, so the only thing they fudged is in real life the cage was already built, but she had it was like in the car there was a cage, but I guess the idea is maybe she'd have to build a bigger cage for inside the house. Maybe it's on the money.
Have I ever told you about my grandparents' past running a pet store?
Yeah. Did they have a monkey?
They did have a monkey dragon.
Huh.
And the cool thing about the monkey was that it was in this cage that was like prominently displayed right when you walked in. So it was like kind of like the big centerpiece of the store.
Yeah.
And my grandpa, like one of my favorite stories from my grandpa is when he closed the store and he had to, he had to send the monkey off to a sanctuary. He had to drive all the way down to Southern California in his little like 1970s red Toyota pickup truck with no air conditioning, with the monkey literally on his shoulder the whole time.
Oh god, it's awful.
I mean, that's awful, but isn't that an endearing story though?
Oh, for sure, yeah. So the monkey story. So this is the thing. It's kind of referenced in there, which is she needed a laugh, but I mean that's the thing. She the whole reason she adopted that monkey was like to save its life because it lost its mother. So there's even more mother parallels going on there. So again, let me saying in parallel to what she was going through early in the movie, the loss of her own mother. So Yeah, so I mean that's the thing, the monkey. But here's the thing, though. Again, when I look at this movie, though, it is the question of like, yeah, in real life, it was literally just kind of like a gag story in which, like, yeah, we wanted to save the monkey, and it's like, hey, Dad came home to a monkey one time, but we kind of recontextualize it here to be in connection to the mental health thing, in which the monkey is more worrying than it is funny here in terms of
Oh
issues.
no, absolutely. I actually really respect Spielberg for barely mining any actual comedy from the monkey.
So that's the thing. So that's a choice for this movie versus real life, from what I understand. As a choice for like the monkey thing, obviously happened both ways. Was the
Mhm.
reaction to said monkey?
So in real life, it was probably more like my situation, where like the
Yeah,
monkey was like an endearing part of the
yeah,
family.
exactly. Yeah. At
That's
least
funny.
the way that he's told that story, it's literally just like
Oh,
it's brought on a monkey, and it's supposed to help the monkeys. So that's the most pathos you get out of that.
okay.
And
You
then,
said you had something to say with the bagel dragon.
yeah, just the bagel is one of those things where I hope to God the bagel was like a real life thing. Well, I mean, I don't hope for his own sake, but I mean, just for the sake of
I hope to God that Spielberg went through some really terrible anti-Semitic bullying. I really hope
I
so.
guess a part of it is just
Sorry.
okay. So I guess the proper phrasing there is like that the bagel with Jew hole written on it. You have to imagine like that is such a that's such a unique. If you're gonna of
Again, I go
all
back to the word specific.
yeah. Yeah, so just the thing, it's such a specific like it's such a specific way of like like epitomizing like as a symbol of having like a Jewish family in school or something. And if you want to like
Mhm.
if as a bullying thing, it just feels so tactile in real life. It feels kind of like it's brilliant in a sadistic bullying way, in terms of like it's the perfect symbol of what you're going for.
So
So
you're like giving the bully some artistic credit in this sense.
no, no, I mean, it's just the sense of that detail feels so real. It has
Sure,
to be
sure.
real versus like something made up for the movie. If it is made up for the movie, it is like, well, if you're gonna give the bully something to come up with, I mean, that's points for creativity.
Well, I love how it kind of like weaponizes the mundane. You know what
Well,
I
I mean,
mean?
more so, I mean, it's perfect because of the namesake, the Bagelman thing, the fact that like most bagels come from Jewish delis and stuff. So
Uh-huh,
that's the
uh-huh.
thing, but Jewish bakeries more accurately.
And now Spider Verse is just redefined how everyone is going to think of bagels moving forward.
That's what I'm saying. Like the bagel was. I'm saying when I saw the trailer for this movie, I saw that the bagel thing is like, wow, that's a really effective symbol for being bullied if you're a Jewish kid.
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
it really kind of
Totally,
struck a
totally.
chord with me.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah.
Also, just to get it in there too, just like man, I always feel this is gonna sound really silly and really kind of general, but I always feel really bad for the Jews when we bully them and everything. Like outside of the obvious, in which we have obviously the terrible
I'm
stuff
sorry,
that
Dragon. That you're right. That does sound pretty silly. I feel
what
like that goes without
no,
saying.
I mean aside from the obvious, the years of hardship and slavery and
Uh-huh.
from the ancient times, and of course the the all the stuff with the Holocaust and all
Then
things
like
there.
Hunters is pretty much an entire
Yeah.
show based around that sort
So I
of
mean,
shit.
obviously that's obvious. I'm saying that's what we usually think about, but people don't always think about though is like just after that, in which we just for some reason there's always just this like the non-wartime prejudice against the Jews, which I never really got and always
Yeah,
felt
I've
really like
never understood that either. I've
see
never.
that's the thing to me is
I mean,
that's
to
what
be
I
fair, I've never been able to wrap my mind. This sounds pretty naive when I say this, but I'm just saying this like just from a purely like mechanical point of view. I've never been able to wrap my mind around someone being hateful towards someone else just because of any sort of skin color, or race, or anything.
well sure, but yeah, it's still it's just one of those things where it's like, well, really, of all the things, like of all the things, like just because like the faith's different, we're gonna discriminate. I guess it's like it just didn't make any sense, especially after the whole nation kind of rallied and like let's help our Jewish people here. It's like
Mhm.
then we just turn on him like on a dime, like oh he's Jewish, like let's just judge him. Let's like let's look at him as low class or like bankers or pastry chefs or what have you or
Mhm.
delimen. It's always like we put him in the corner. I don't really get why. It's just like one of those like why hatred exists in the world sort of things,
Honestly, I think with the Jewish thing, I think a lot of it just has to do with petty jealousy.
right?
Yeah.
That I guess that's it. Yeah.
Anyways,
Anyways, as we're deconstructing the idea of hate, folks, so forgive us there.
I by the way, that's a really great transition. He won't tell us who did this. Ask him who did this. That's a great transition with Michelle Williams just opening the door.
And the protective Jewish mother, of course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Michelle Williams just has that Jewish mother cadence down so well without making it stereotypical. Like, she really rides that line.
The closest thing we get, and I love how she says it, we have darling,
Doll. Yeah.
All right, so this is like the one really big kind of father versus son scene that we have in the film right here, where he's calling him out like the move and everything, and how he has tunnel vision. He's not paying attention to the fact that they're all miserable here.
I mean, my argument for that is that I really do feel like, in the grand scheme of things, his father was probably the more passive one, whereas his mother was probably way more animated. So I do think that I think it's a smart call, honestly. And I love that. I love his mother's reaction right there, by the way.
Yeah, the whole I started therapy.
Right. That to me is one of the best laughs of the movie.
I gotta be honest, Tiki. In my notes, I brought it far earlier than I meant to, but this is like the moment of like we here, so you want to be Andrew, love our quirky blonde.
Totally.
Let's see how.
I think that's should that be? We should probably note that down as the outro bit. I started therapy.
Again, that's like sort of, let's see how she feels about road signs. Let's see how she feels about.
Oh my god. Okay, but no, what I was saying though, with the I do think it's smart that you do just have like the one big blow up with the father. Structurally, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I love how this movie does. Like, the father is very much passively in the background a lot of the time, but he's not like an absentee father. He's just, and Dragon, I very much relate to this dude, because at the end of the day, I just think this dude doesn't want conflict. And I am very much the same way. Yes. Like, I live my life with so much anxiety. Like my life, I can't even tell you how much, like, I have, like, unnecessarily sacrificed just in the sake of keeping people happy. Like, it is something I am still very much struggling with.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so the sorry, a couple things here. One, I mean, the other thing to bear in mind too, with when you look at the whole father son dynamic, is again, things didn't really sour between father and son until the divorce happens, which it hasn't yet. Mm-hmm. So that's probably another reason. But again, in terms of shifting and recontextualizing how we reveal that information, is something that there was not room for in the movie. So I guess the way we showed the issues under the surface, and it's kind of there. The other thing is I just want to remind you, like, remember I've cast you as Dano, right, in the biopic, like, offhand.
Yes, I remember that. I was very flattered by that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, because I do see Dano as you often. I gotta be sure.
I can totally see it.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the element of the movie where
yeah, you and I both agree that the girlfriend thing is probably the thing that really doesn't need to be there.
It's weird, but here's the thing. In real life, Spielberg, it wasn't like he hasn't revealed the name of the girl, and I don't know if she's amalgam or not, but essentially there was a religious girl. There was a religious girlfriend, probably a brief fling. So that did happen, but it's a question of how on the nose was it. Like, I don't know if we'd had a girl like such a fascination, like Jesus is a heart. When I think heartthrob and I think Jesus, I don't really think those two in the same.
You know what else really bothers me about this character, and I literally didn't even notice it until I saw the thumbnail for this video. What? I hate that she is so center focus in the poster. I hate that, Dragon. Like, because she doesn't even pop into the movie until like the last 40 minutes or so. And I don't know. That it's like the one element of the movie that feels inauthentic to me.
So the reason for this scene here is he's trying to get Logan back in the good graces of his girlfriend that he cheated on. But I like the fact that when we're applying all these layers to Logan, very Flash Thompson-y layers that we should apply to a traditional Flash Thompson. It's just the fact that I love the fact that he punched him and he intimidated him purely for the fact of, hey, you're going to make this right. So it wasn't even purely, I'm mad at you and I want to beat you up until you're dead. It's sort of like a thing of like, hey, fix this. Like, yes, I screwed up, but you blurted it out, so you're going to help me undo this.
Mhm.
It's purely in the effort of like, I like and Logan's not he's irresponsible, but he's not all bad.
I'm not gonna lie, I think it's a realistic way to get a couple together.
Yeah.
Like in the very couple relationships that I have had, that it is kind of like been spurred on by that, where it's like someone just happens to be at the right place at the right time. You know what I mean?
Was there like a shrine to like all these Jesus pictures on like a heartthrob wall?
No, more like a shrine to Frank Herbert.
Huh, that's kind of
She was
cool.
a really big Dune fan. I remember that much. Anyways,
That's what I'm saying. Like this is always like kind of like it's kind of it's I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing. It's kind
I
of
like that she has a Life of Brian poster.
I mean, it's kind of it takes me back to kind of the '80s movies like Mischief. Do you remember that movie Mischief?
No idea. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. I don't think it's everyone's cup of tea, but I don't love the movie myself. It's just the fact that like kind of like it's Kelly Preston's in it.
Hmm.
Anyway, Kelly Preston. There's a guy who looks like Anthony Michael Hall, but I don't think it's Anthony Michael Hall. It's always the thing about that movie. Anyway, point being, it's kind of like a teen romance thing, which you have a scene that it's kind of in a vein like this, where the girl takes you home, and basically there's kind of like she's something's off there.
Mm-hmm. Jesus was sexy.
So the idea she's attracted to him because of the fun historical fact that, well, I guess the fun fact that Jesus was, he technically is a Jewish carpenter.
It is a very superficial attraction, and I very much feel bad for him in that way.
But I do love that he's just kind of you get
There's a line that she says that just cuts so deep for me, and it's supposed to be a compliment, and we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah. I love
like just the line that's like, really? That's all I was to you? Anyways.
I do love though that he knows full well, okay, I'm not gonna transition here, but I might be able to get some kissy face in here, so I'm gonna go for it.
Right.
And he does, and well, he gets lucky. I mean, to a degree. I mean, I don't know how lucky, but he got somewhat lucky. So good for him.
I'm not gonna lie, this whole please Holy Spirit, I'm begging you, sweet Holy Father thing.
Yeah, it's
that would probably be my cue to piece the fuck out, honestly.
Well,
I'm not gonna lie.
Well, it depends how hard up you are, folks. Sometimes,
Yeah. No, yeah. Dragon, my whole thing is like I just could not like I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it with someone who is that religious, because it's like I am a very authentic person when it comes to like how I present myself. Like I literally like I don't even really think I have the ability to present myself as someone that I am not. So it would be such a struggle for me.
Right. Yeah, there's something appetizing. I died for your sins, but hey, congratulations, get lucky. Don't mind me. I'm
just the monkey eating the fucking cherry tomato.
Yep. I mean, while she's a religious nut, she is a looker, though. You gotta give her that.
Yeah, sure. She's a teenager, so I'm gonna say
I know. I'm just saying for like
a very nice-looking young woman.
I understand. I get what Sam sees in the girl if you were in Sam's shoes, I guess. Is
sure. Yeah.
Putting that, All right, let's see. So, here's the thing. Here we have just kind of like there's a monkey at the table at the Fableman house. Also, did you notice?
I do imagine that that's sort of like just usually how it was. Like, yeah, there's a monkey here. What of it?
By the way, did you notice the there's like a little dish that has the monkey on it, like a little thing has the food in it, like a little.
No, I did not notice that. That's adorable.
Yeah, see, it's like a little. You'll see it's like the centerpiece of the table, but it's like a lid, like a little pot that has like food in it.
Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah,
right there.
That's funny. He throws his poop. The therapist?
Well, yes, actually. It's a real problem.
Something tells me if a therapist had that problem, they'd have a very hard time keeping clients.
Well, unless they had a therapist of their own. Which is a real thing,
but a client who had a scat fetish.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like that Rick.
Then it would be a very mutually beneficial relationship.
Anyways. It's like to be playing catch.
Oh no! Oh no! Okay, we've gone too far. We've gone too far.
Well, you brought it up.
I know I did. I know. Anyways,
all right. So here we go. They're kind of like kind of embarrassing Sam in front of the girlfriend here about he loves his camera.
Mm-hmm.
So I love this also in that hallway scene where Sam saw Logan kissing the redhead. We set up a little Ditch Day poster. So here we're paying off Ditch Day.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the Aeroflex camera. See.
Yeah.
Yep. Here's the thing. By the way, I fudged this in the opening. We're gonna have to fix it for the next installment. It's the 8mm camera, not 88.
Oh,
it was a typo when I typed up the thing. It was a whole.
I was wondering. Yeah.
Yeah. Point being, so we go from 8mm to 16. We're in the 16mm era, kids. Yeah, we're gonna have sound on film. See, it is Bo. Oh, it's Bolex, not Bowflex. Sorry, Bolex.
But yeah, I knew it wasn't Bowflex.
Well, I'm sorry, man. There's Aeroflex, so you can understand where I was mixing my camera terms. Got Flex and Lex. Anyway,
I love him apologizing for saying Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
I just caught that actually.
So
Jesus Christ! I'm sorry.
Andrew Stan hilariously, because we're doing a commentary right now, I'm going to bring this up briefly. During the Bugs Life commentary, during the whole Bugs Life bonus features, Andrew Stan had this thing where he kept throwing Super Genius edition.
Oh my god!
It was like
horrible.
It was like the special edition of Bugs Life that had the commentary versus like the actual release, which did not have commentary. So it was like, hey,
you should really fucking put more commentaries up. That's all I'm saying.
Well, again, Pixar has not dropped the ball with commentaries. Pixar has been good with the commentaries. There's all the other stuff.
Even like how are you keeping up with Pixar releases as far as like the more recent stuff, like Turning Red and stuff?
Yeah, commentaries. Yeah, they have not dropped the ball. I mean, the worst thing was like during the big Disney Pixar transition at the beginning, there was a year where they did not have commentaries, but then they went back and did the Blu-ray release, which had commentaries. So
I remember that because I remember Cars did not have commentary.
That's the thing, but they did. So again, eventually they made it right. So all the Pixar films do have commentary.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one. Anyway, but the scene we just talked to her, because we're talking about a lot of things. We saw kind of like the strife between, mother and father at the dinner table, the two sides, the scientist and the artist, and kind of like Sam kind of speaking up and just kind of trying to asserting himself there.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably the most nostalgic scene for my father here at the going.
Yeah, totally.
My father and I share a similar taste in music that he kind of cultivated. So there's like going for the old 50s songs like this.
You know what's interesting is that this scene, they say the scene is shot on the Santa Cruz main beach.
Yeah.
And for the life of me, I don't think it's the same beach that the boardwalk is on. But also, like, some of the rocks in the background vaguely look like that. Like, some of the, like, see that cliff in the background? That kind of looks like a cliff that's at the boardwalk. Those lifeguard house structure things are there. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's at the Santa Cruz boardwalk. But I can't exactly tell because obviously they don't focus on the background outside of the beach.
Yeah, I don't know. At the very least, they're definitely trying to make it look like that. At the very least, I don't know if they're actually there or not.
Well, if they're trying to go for, that's what I'm kind of confused.
Well, admittedly,
if they're trying to go for the actual Santa Cruz boardwalk beach, you would think that they'd include a shot of the Santa Cruz boardwalk, even if they're not actually there.
Well, admittedly, again, of all the stuff in the movie,
this is just by the way, this is just me being a NorCal theme park fan. So like, whenever Santa Cruz is brought up, I instantly think of the boardwalk. So it's really not a big deal.
Well, there's also a question like, was there a boardwalk in 62 or whatever?
Yes, there was.
Okay, there was. Anyway, okay. So real quick, what I was getting at there was that of all the stuff in the movie, the high school stuff is the most questionable in terms of the fact checking, in terms of all that. In terms of, like you said, with the girlfriend and everything, and the fact that I don't even know if that was like the name of the high school he went to. I mean, the bullying.
I'm sorry, I have to stay. Like, when you pointed out the Millie Bobby Brown thing with that middle sister, I cannot unsee it now.
Okay, so this is a very effective scene in the movie because this is them coming to the realization of the divorce as they're moving into the house. You can see the distance there. He's trying to be Benny essentially right now, but he's just kind
Dragon,
of
every time that he is like trying to get affection and it's just not being reciprocated,
it's
like
heartbreaking.
this, it's painful. It physically pains me.
But again, I love that he's making the effort here, and you know,
Look at that face. Look at that
Mhm.
undecisiveness on her face. That is such
Exactly.
goddamn good acting right
Like,
there.
look how
That is
happy
such a striking face right there.
look how happy he is though. He's trying
Exactly.
his darndest.
That is one of my favorite shots in the whole movie,
So speaking
easily.
of which, everyone loves the shot that's coming up. All the critics are in head over heels for the shot, which it's gonna be like a minute or a few minutes, I guess. But the idea that that previous scene that we had is from the POV of Sam having picked up his camera again after ditch day, and he's back to filming things. So
Mhm.
he's the POV of like the son seeing the family on the precipice of being disillusioned. Then as the divorce happens, like he's filming it in the mirror. That's the shot everyone's in love with, the whole reflection things. They love the whole like him, the director filming his own life essentially, be like filming the fracture point in his life.
Mhm.
Yeah. So again, in real life though, the way this went was that the father took the brunt of this to protect her feelings. So this scene is going a lot differently than real life.
Oh man, I mean,
I mean,
the acting from all the kids here is very powerful, though.
like the emotions and the betrayal, I'm sure is actually accurate. But I'm just saying, like the little specifics of just the full fact, like he was just, it was like they would have been more directing the blame towards dad than they would mom here. That's the difference.
Sure, sure, that makes sense. Yeah.
Doesn't hurt they did not have the information. They didn't know about the Benny thing at all. Just that's the
Hmm.
yeah. That's like they kind of threw a little bit there where he's like saying no, no, it was my idea, but then they're very instantly seeing through it versus real life. So
I love that shot. Is
yeah,
that what you were talking about?
yeah, right there, yeah,
The one with him in the mirror.
yeah, him in the mirror. That's the one. That's the one.
Yeah, yeah,
Critics,
that's awesome.
the critics love that shot. Yeah,
Hmm. I can see why.
it's good. And again here, here's a missed opportunity for me in the movie. I wonder how you feel about this. So again, per the choices that we've made in this movie, which again are not a detriment to the movie, which the choices that we made in terms of like trying to balance things out a little bit more with the parents and everything. Um, the sister here, Reggie, is saying that Sam is like his mother, where in reality, right now, I think he's more like his father, kind of throwing himself into his work.
No, I mean for sure. I mean, obviously, he's definitely like a kind of like I can definitely see him being the mother as far as like his artistic side. But yeah, the
Yeah,
throwing himself into the work and what we saw with that camera shot where it's like he's almost like trying to emotionally disengage from it by just filming it, almost um without bias.
yeah, like his father would. Now here's the other thing too. Now this might be unfair to the movie. Not might be. This is unfair to the movie, but it's an element of in the real life Spielberg stories, the fact that Spielberg's the guy who like promised after the harrowingness of the divorce of his parents, he promised he would never get divorced, and what does he end up doing? He gets divorced after his first kid.
Right,
So
right.
so it's the idea that
Womp womp.
it's the idea the father becomes the son sort of thing. So in that respect, I guess I was looking maybe in the movie for more opportunities of the father and son having similarities despite their differences.
Mhm.
And this seemed to be like, if you're going to slide in there, it would have been that. But then again, it would have been just one scene versus the majority of which we're saying the son is much like the mother side of the family. So I don't know. That's what it's more missed opportunity. There's like a problem or anything. It's just like we could have gone that way, but
Sure, sure.
yeah. There's a nice scene with his sister though, and again, like and Spielberg here being represented here in terms of like like these two are like collaborators as well as just family. So the fact that she's there to support what he's doing.
Mhm.
The little vulnerable moment, like the little head, like leaning the head on the shoulder thing.
Yeah, you can really feel the connection there for sure.
Yeah.
Just sort of like embracing each other as their worlds fall apart.
I don't know if it was like a ring or something, but I heard that the real Anne Spielberg let this girl keep like some piece of like like jewelry that she had for her costume. Like it was either a ring or a necklace or something. Let her keep it, so it was nice.
Nice.
So here we go. It's the prom.
Oh man, it's so fucking brutal how this scene with the hairspray and stuff is so playful, and yet it just turns so sour so quickly for these two.
Yeah. And again, you get the sense of when things go sour. It's the fact that the divorce was really kind of like a head trip for him, and just like him, like kind of viewing even like kind of a relationship in its early stages is like, like, I do not want this to happen to us. Let's. It's
I'm
quite.
not gonna lie, I would I would pull the exact same bullshit if I was in his situation.
It is a
I
question.
I would like without question I would do this shit.
I guess it is a question of, is he doing this like to just kind of like have a relationship where the relationship is in his other relationship, his life is kind of deteriorating, or is he doing this in kind of almost like an homage to his father in terms of, I'm going to throw myself into a distraction right now, and this is the distraction.
No, I don't think it's a distraction. I think it's a defense mechanism.
Okay.
Like, I don't even really think he cares that much about the actual girl, but he very much cares about not losing a relationship. Does that make sense?
I think so.
This scene's fucking brutal.
It is, and again, you do question. Here's the thing: when I look at this movie, this is the scene I kind of do criticize in relation of, it's harrowing and it feels genuine. But again, this is like one of those things with all the high school stuff that feels like it's manufactured for the movie so we can get them out in the hallway. That's really what it feels.
That. Yeah,
it feels like we just need a reason for him to go in the hallway, be dejected, and we just kind of like manufactured kind of something for that. Where, I mean, I'm sure there's probably like it sounds like there was like a fleeting girlfriend relationship, but I don't know if it was like under the same circumstances he made a move like this.
Okay, I'm sorry, really quickly. The two things that really get to me about this conversation. Number one, the fact that she literally laughs in his face about the idea of loving him and saying that it's literally impossible. And then number two, I don't know if it's come up or not yet in the conversation, but just the whole idea of like, you're a really fun boy to kiss. That's like, that to me is like a slap in the face. Like, really? Like, because honestly, frankly, with the whole thing of, like being supportive with the movie and everything and the dad's camera, I gotta say, when it comes to, like, for me, the dad's camera thing and her just being so willing to do that for him, that would be my sign that this girl is more than just wanting to be, like my kissing partner. You know what I mean? And so it's like,
that is true. I mean, she did meet the family, so you're right. She met the family. She took a step there. By the same token, though, she was really blasé about, oh yeah, my dad's got a camera. Why don't you use it? I don't think it was more of like, hey, my father's got a camera. I want you to do this with it.
No, I mean, she wasn't that serious about it, but she was pretty insistent about it, though. If you go back and watch the scene, like, she says it multiple times.
It's a good point. I'm going to pray really hard for you.
Oh, God. Oh, that's a slap in the face.
Yeah, that's the one she says you're a really fun boy to kiss. So that's the, yeah.
I hate that. I genuinely hate that.
It's not great. This guy, I recognize this. I guess, the principal. I recognize this guy, but I can't, for the life of me, I can't think of who he is right now. Or what I've seen him from. I know I've seen this guy in like bit parts in other places. I don't think Google is going to solve this one, but you can give it a shot, I guess.
I'm giving it a shot.
I'm not going to recognize his name offhand. I'm going to have to know what he's been in.
I'm giving it a shot, Dragon. All right. If I can even find what he's credited under.
I got a really stupid, possibly offensive question.
Oh no, what?
If you found the bagel in your locker and it had significance written on it, like it was, okay, if it were actually a bagel dangling in your locker by a string, would you contemplate eating it?
No, absolutely not.
Right? Because of the hatred. Right?
Absolutely fucking not.
It's purely a principle thing, right?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Well, I mean, and also because there's literally Sharpie on that bagel, but yes, also is a
When you eat a
principle
bagel,
thing.
though, you tear it in half, so you don't have to eat the half with the Sharpie on it, though.
It doesn't matter.
I'm saying, but that's what I'm
He's,
wondering. Is it the Sharpie or is it the forged in hate thing stopping you from eating it?
it's half and half.
Literally. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I can't find principal on here in the cast list.
All right.
Oh, wait, no, never mind. I found what else has he been in? Keep me updated on what's going on in
Yeah,
the.
so right now we're seeing the footage at prom, which actually turned out really good, and it's we're seeing it bond people. It's also ticking off our our not so good bully character. Yeah, the maniac, Cleus Cassidy Jr.
Right. Oh shit! I'm sorry. I better not just be googling over this very important scene.
Well, we're
Oh
getting
no!
there.
Well, we're at the. Just let me know when we get to the hallway scene.
Oh,
Okay.
we're almost there. Though, so we made double time it.
I know.
So right now, our bully character is seeing the footage. He's seeing
Does the
himself.
name Norm Wakely mean anything to you?
Yeah, it does, but I don't know what I've seen him in
Better Call Saul.
Oh yeah, I know. Yes, he was the guy from. He was the guy. I knew I recognized that guy. Yes.
There we go.
Yeah,
There
Norm
we go.
Wakely
Mystery solved.
was in season 6 of Better Call Saul, episode 1. He was the guy who in I guess was it did we call it episode Wine and Roses?
Yes.
Yes, in Wine and Roses, he was the guy touring the country club, the golf club. He was the one that then.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And how appropriate is it that he's in this movie that has a lot of anti-Semitism in it, which we have false anti-Semitism in that moment. Better Call Saul. The whole, 5,000 years it never ends. Yeah, I knew it, Rick. Okay, I feel good.
I am so satisfied that I actually figured that out.
Very nice. Good on you, Tiki.
That was a really good. That was a really good rush of dopamine right there.
Okay.
Anyways.
So right now we're having some limbo fun times. We're kind of like we're seeing. We're kind of getting Logan his girl back here. And again, is it undeserved? Most likely, but is it nice to see? I guess kind of.
But meanwhile, Cletus Cassidy over here is just stumbling drunk on the beach.
Yep. Yeah, look at him. Fall in the water.
Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da.
Who doesn't like Chariots of Fire?
That's all I think of when I see a foot race.
Yeah. There's one movie parody I've always dreamed of figuring out what it's in reference to, but I could never find it out.
What?
It's the scene in Rugrats in which Lou Pickles is running to the train station and he misses the train, and then Morgana she runs off. It's the fact that's from a movie. And it can never
I feel like that. Are you sure that's not just a trope?
I mean, maybe, but it
That
feels
was done
very.
in The Simpsons too, and a bunch of other shit. The whole
that's the
idea
thing,
of running for a train and the train's taken off.
But the old movie thing, that's the black and white version of that is what's throwing me off. That's what's making me think it's a direct reference to something. It was shot very specifically.
I don't know. I think that might just be a trope. I could be
a
wrong.
trope that does assuage all of my paranoia. So I guess I'm going to have to maybe hope it's a trope. Yeah. All right, bully gets the girl. Bully got the girl.
My thing with it really does kind of tick me off that this girl goes back and tries to find Sam, and it's like, what the hell are you expecting after what you laid into him?
Yeah. Even so, it's like, hey, I like him now that he made.
Right. Dragon. Honestly, that whole character is the big problem point with me in this movie. I love this movie outside of her character, but her character kind of is the one thing that I can point to and be like, nope, this is not great. Okay, but this is great though. Holy shit, this scene.
This scene is very standout.
I mean, I don't even it's hard for me to even fully express. I don't know. What's your read on it, emotionally?
So So yeah, this scene I love. Again, it feels so. I know I've been using a lot of Spider-Man references here because this kid I think would make a great Flash Thompson, but it does feel very Peter Parker Flash Thompson in terms of we are giving the bully all these layers in which you kind of you look at him, you perceive them. These kids are very much opposites, but I love the fact that Logan wants to know the why. He desperately wants to know like
Mhm.
why you did this. Ultimately, because he feels very seen and he feels like basically what's happened here is that Sam has represented his worst fears on screen and it really left an emotional impact, much like we have the impact on an audience that Spielberg makes.
Sure, sure.
So that's essentially what this is. This is like him
It's
making like
almost kind of like a direct call out to sort of the criticism of Spielberg being overly sentimental
I mean to a
or
kind of
emotionally manipulative, at
there you
least.
go. I think that's probably the better phrase
Uh-huh.
in this case. Yeah. But yeah, this scene is just utter gold. It's the idea of like he has to know why he made him look so good. And again, it's calling back to that earlier thing I mentioned where again it's like him he I think ultimately the reason is he picked this guy because it was he was right for the part and because he's the conventional lead. That's why he picked him. It wasn't really like a
Right,
matter
right.
of necessarily making him like him or anything, but just like winning over an audience for a few minutes while they're watching something, including this guy. But then it was taking him so vulnerable was just such an unexpected, refreshing term, especially for the '60s. We're seeing this guy.
Okay, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Judd Hirsch. This guy deserves an Oscar
Oh, come
nomination more than
on!
Judd
Don't.
Hirsch.
Oh, that's petty. Come on.
I know it's petty, but it's kind of true.
Yeah, but seriously, this kid. In all seriousness, though, do you think this kid's got a bright future? Because he was really good in this.
I hope he does, Dragon. I really do.
Well, I love that punch this Weasley little little Cletus
Uh,
Cassidy.
he literally kicks him in the ass.
Yeah, that's an old. There's
like
like a thing they do. Well,
like very rarely do we actually see an ass kick, Dragon.
last time I saw one like this, it was 2011. It was Captain America: The First Avenger. Bucky does this to the
right,
bully.
right.
Yeah, but no, seriously, I just love that. We're seeing he have that vulnerability. Basically, the jock with the expectations thrust upon him, and it's just like all of his vulnerabilities and his neuroses has just been kind of put on screen for him. At least has elicited that in him.
Mhm.
It's really good, and of course, this understanding of like, hey, you don't tell me when I got emotional, upset. Yeah,
And again, I feel like this whole scene kind of mirrors um the camping trip scene, the whole like it'll be our secret
yeah.
and just kind of like the emotional vulnerability that's kind of shown through on screen even when you're not intending it.
Yeah, and it's also just the fact of again, you're right though. It's the fact that he saw something in that footage, and this is
Mhm.
the second time this has happened. Yeah. It's the fact that he's realizing he has an ability to kind of see truth in the art here, I guess.
Someone smoking some weed.
Yeah, but not Spielberg.
No, I actually yeah, you're right.
I think that's true. Like, I could be wrong. I don't know if I assume Spielberg may have at least experimented once,
I
but
can't imagine he's never smoked weed.
that's honestly
But
though. That said, he actually there's I remember hearing all those kind of the Brat Pack stories that he might have actually been kind of straight arrows. He might not actually have done that.
I'm sure Lucas was a stoner. I am sure of that. Lucas grew up in NorCal, bro.
So that's the thing. So Spielberg might have been like the kind of the straight edge member of the group.
Uh-huh.
So that's mostly honestly just given the fine point that we put on this scene, it feels like it's probably why that it's probably them commenting on, yeah, he's not going to fall into the '70s, '60s kind of like mentality.
I do like the kind of like the friendly middle
Middle finger,
finger.
yeah, the whole like you got the girl. That's nice. Again, just an
And then
excellent
I
scene.
love this reaction too. That feels that this reaction right there, that right there probably is like for me one of the most authentic like Spielbergian moments from that actor.
Oh yeah.
Just kind of like the after the big scene, just like holy shit, what the hell just happened?
Yep. You know what's funny? The two, not counting the volleyball, the two people that have actually physically hit him in the movie, he kind of has like a forgiveness with, and they're both
He
blonde.
does. You're right.
There's kind of a runner in here of you know, kind of like emotionally fraught relationships with blonde people. It's not like I've been hitting you your whole life. I hit you once.
I love how distraught she is that he knows exactly when it happened.
Yeah. Again, you gotta imagine. Let's take a moment here. How trippy this was for Spielberg on set. I'm saying not for the scene.
I mean, the whole movie was
That's
probably
what
very
I.
surreal.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Because in general, like it's taking a
Mhm.
moment to acknowledge it. He's like, I'm just looking at her wardrobe. Like, yeah, his mother dressed like this all the time. It's like
Right,
it's
right,
trippy. It's like to direct your parents and you and this kid that looks exactly like you. You
right.
know.
I love how it's like she almost doesn't want to take his forgiveness until she lets everything out.
Exactly.
I forgive you. The eggs are burning.
Mm-hmm. Of course, Norma would never let the eggs burn.
Oh God!
Even Norman as
Could you
Norma,
imagine if Formiga was in this role, Dragon? Could you even imagine?
I couldn't. Oh well,
It would literally be our favorite movie.
yeah.
With all due respect to Michelle Williams is wonderful in the movie,
But you
but
know who else? Again, even Norman as Norma would not let the eggs burn.
oh my, this is objectively true. I feel like
He
Norman
would
as
throw in some
Norma.
blueberries. He would throw in blueberries.
I feel like Norman as Norma would be even less likely than just regular Norma.
No, true. So again, this the significance of this scene here is this is like this is the day before like they're moving into separate places. It's like at least very least in the window before they're about to like, make the move and which for the divorce. Like the divorce is in the process right now. Eventually they're going to move, and essentially that's what she's kind of like going through right now in terms of it's going to be a big change here. Like she's going back to Benny and kind of leaving behind the status quo that she knew,
Mhm.
kind of doing it for her. I mean, basically, kind of like the changes, giving him life advice before things altered.
Yeah.
You need some burnt eggs. I like them burnt.
So Monica dumped me.
Yep, I proposed. Well, all but. Anyway.
I was going to make a Friends joke about Tom Selleck, but I decided against it. He's going out with this guy with a mustache now.
Do you think she should have ended up with Tom Selleck?
Nah.
That's what I thought. Okay.
I mean, I think that Chandler and her got really boring as characters after they got together.
Yeah.
But, like, if you look at it just from the point of view of, like, if they're good for each other, I would say yes, they are.
Isn't that a weird thing? Because they were all being clandestine, hiding a relationship was exciting, but after everyone knew, it was just kind of like my best friend and my baby.
Dragon, it's the classic will they, won't they dilemma. I mean, I haven't watched The Office, but I've heard that the Jim and Pam thing is very much the same way.
Yeah, well, we don't want to get into that right now. Let's see. Oh, look, if you notice there's like a black and white photo. I don't know if that was like his father during his wartime or not, which is a reference to.
I actually, believe it or not, I have a little bit of a nitpick with this scene, just because I could be wrong about this, but I don't actually think the term panic attack was around back in the 70s.
Real? Are you sure about that?
Or 60s?
Well, no, we're actually. Well, that's the thing.
Are we in the 60s or 70s?
Well,
I think we're still in the 60s, right?
Yeah, but it's only a year later, so probably in the 60s, but maybe like towards the late-ish 60s.
Yeah, Dragon, I'm not exactly sure about that, but I do know that just the idea of a panic attack has been very, very, like, popularized, and people are very aware of it now, so I kind of feel like that was slipped in there just to be topical.
I'm sorry, this is like 1963, because he's 7 years old in 1952. So,
I'm Googling when was the term panic attack first. Oh, 1975.
Huh. Well, then again, also, remember, his father's like a smart guy, so he's probably heard the term before, too, like before like a lot of others. And I don't know, I feel like I don't know, it's it's probably just a liberty. All right.
It's a liberty. It's a liberty.
So it's
I
a
mean,
we don't
again,
care
I am
moment.
very familiar with panic attacks, so it
No,
is
I
a
know,
liberty.
true, but I mean, at least they're talking about it. And, kind of I
Sure,
don't know.
sure.
The fact that again, it feels like there's like an acknowledgement of mental health from him to a degree, but that feels like he's
I
living
think
more.
it kind of like, I don't know. Do we ever actually know what brought on the panic attack?
Well, yeah. Mentioned it was the idea that so Spielberg again, he did not go to film school, so the idea he's going to college in the pursuit of film school, and it was too much for him, and he's out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, I don't that might be a fudging of
Okay,
real
well, I
life.
can say, like, for me, college gave me some of my worst panic attacks. So,
So
yes, I can very much relate to that.
So this might be a slight fudging of the deals because I don't think he's necessarily in film school because I think the idea in real life is that Spielberg applied to film school and they wouldn't take him, so he just did it on his own.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I assume maybe there was I don't know if there was college in the interim for him before that or not. So I don't know if this is just them like splitting the difference. Like, okay, so we went to college, not for film school, we went to college, probably in the grand pursuit of that while he was writing to everyone, which he did do in real life, and ultimately, he did. The panic attacks probably were accurate though.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. So basically, Spielberg's
Do
trying
you
to.
know if it's accurate that he was like doing the commutes and living with his father instead of living in the dorm? Like, it's funny he mentions like I am not going to go back there with the dorm. It's like I get a sense that you could have had like a whole act of the movie take place with his struggles living in the dorm, but we just don't have time for that.
So my presumption is that based on Catch Me If You Can, the way we show that we had Frank William Abagnale and Frank William Abagnale Senior living in the same place for a while. It was kind of like the vibe I got from the scene, but it feels like maybe there's like a real life kind of pull from there. So it makes me just make the broad assumption that in real life when during the divorce he probably went with the father at least for a while. They swapped weekends
Mm-hmm.
or something, so he probably for a while was with his father like this.
I actually got the sense that his father got custody of him and the sisters went to live with the mother. Do you think that's accurate?
I mean, that may that yeah, yes. Sorry. The point being, it's somehow, however the split happened, he's probably with his father. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so that feels like that's
And
probably
like the
maybe
sisters probably occasionally visit the father. He probably occasionally visits the mother.
yeah. So something.
I'm just saying that because the sisters are very clearly like in the photos right here.
Yeah. So this is a great scene too, where he's the father. How do you read this scene though? When he saw that photo, and then there was kind of like a tone shift in the scene. Do you think that's him taking a moment where we had this thing where he had like the tea kettle boiling? I don't know if that was like a gag of like the father's getting upset, and then he hears this photo, and that gives him perspective in which he kind of changes his tune a little bit here. Of like,
Hmm.
taking a step back, saying, "Look, I still don't trust this filmmaking thing, but I know you, and you're gonna work like the Dickens whatever happens. So you're gonna make this work." And he believes in him and everything. And yeah, I believe there was like basically had this really good line too, which I'm kind of blanking on right now. Oh, right. So here's the line. It says he already passed. We've gone too far in our story to say the end. Basically, in terms of like we're never not going to be in each other's lives, which is a really good line.
Sure,
And
yeah,
that line
yeah.
to me feels probably one of the most personal lines divined for the movie because that feels like Spielberg looking back on the feelings he had for his father and just kind of realizing we're never not going to know each other because again they know each other throughout the Spielberg
Okay, really
throughout
quick.
his
This
work.
is Grunberg, right?
Yeah, it's Greg Grunberg. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad I'm not crazy. I actually have
Grunny.
facial cognition.
It's Grunny, Tiki.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is Greg Grunberg. I love the way Greg Grunberg plays this guy. I forget who he's supposed. I know he's not Sid Sheinberg because he doesn't come
I
till
feel like
later.
Ray Grunberg is kind of like the more underappreciated version of Jon Favreau's acting style.
I mean, that feels similar. I guess I could see your point there.
I love Greg Grunberg, dude.
Yeah.
I've always loved him.
I love that Grunberg is he's kind of like he's kind of the savior for him here, where he kind of shows up, he gives him a job on the Universal lot. He's gotten his letters. He's probably been around like sneaking into places, but on the sets, with the
Mhm.
doing the things we've always heard, but that was off screen. But yeah, so By the way, Hogan's Heroes, that was kind of started that was started pre-Godfather. So we're in kind of that era. We're getting close to the development of the Godfather, where he's going to meet his other pals.
You know what I always think of when I hear Hogan's Heroes now, and I really hate to say this.
I see nothing, I know nothing.
No, I think of Kick-Assia.
All right.
This is Hogan's Heroes time. I invent a new rule. 4 o'clock is going to be Hogan's Heroes time. Shut the fuck up. I'm watching Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Okay, so here's something really cool. Okay, so first of all, again, Greg Grunberg, love him here. I just love how he's like really in support of the kid.
A small little 1 minute role, but it's so delicious.
Meet the greatest. I love he sees the opportunity. Would you like to meet the greatest film director ever who's ever lived? Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing, Tiki. Of all the things in the movie, apparently,
did this not happen?
No, I'm getting that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Of all the things that happened in the movie, this 100% in real life, verbatim, as close as they could possibly get, it happened in real life.
Oh, cool. Okay. I thought you were gonna say they fabricated this. I was like, what?
Like they've sworn up and down, like everything down to like the kiss marks on his face, like all of that real. All of that, like this scene went down just like this.
I love that the secretary is at the ready to wipe off the kiss marks.
Exactly. So all of that, verbatim, was again according to so David Lynch plays John Ford. It hasn't shown up yet, but he's about to. So John Ford is played by David Lynch. Now here's the thing. So Tony Kushner's husband apparently suggested David Lynch. Now, in getting David Lynch, initially said no, because who wants to play John Ford? Because that's big shoes to fill. That's the iconic director. So what happened was Laura Dern called him. Spielberg called in a favor to Laura Dern, and Laura Dern in turn called David Lynch and convinced him. He did on 2 conditions. One, he did it because Laura Dern asked him this. Here, the main condition the silly condition that he took to take on the role was he needed bags of Cheetos on the set.
Oh my god.
That's what they've been saying. They've been saying that's the reason.
I mean, that's not good. That would fuck with continuity. That actually bothers my OCD, Dragon.
No.
He can't be munching on Cheetos and then not have the Cheeto fingers. That bothers my OCD more than you might think. Honestly,
no, it's like at the craft service table. It's not eating them in the movie.
All right. Anyways,
the fact is okay, let's make sure there are Cheetos on set. I'll do it. I love the little boot with the matches, by the way. I love that.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so here's the thing. So, David Lynch, he they intentionally he did not have any scenes with this young actor until this moment. This is like his actual reaction.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah,
to capture this on film, and also 2 weeks in advance because John Ford was one of those rough.
Because David Lynch, I mean, it is smart to get just for the sake of the performance. It is smart to get an iconic director in his own right for this role.
Yeah,
for the sake of accurately reflecting in the in the actor playing Sam's performance, his reaction.
Sure, and also during this scene, so 2 weeks in advance, because John Ford was like a director who he was a real live-in kind of director in which he would he was a real rough and tumble guy. So for 2 weeks in advance for the role, he lived in these clothing in these clothes, so he can make him look all kind of dirty and lived in, like this guy that came back from the set somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So he put in the work, that Dave Lynch. So. So yeah, of course, this is the great, great scene where he's comparing, shot composition within the artwork here, and he's basically, I love how he just dumbs it down, simplifies it to what you need to know about horizons. The horizon is key. Basically, the simplest thing you need to know, and Spielberg has lived by this philosophy ever since that word of advice.
Mm-hmm.
The way you compose the shot. Where's the horizon? He doesn't care what's
right.
No. Where's the horizon? the horizon? Where is it? That's right. Fun fact. Apparently, I read this where David Lynch is a painter.
Is he? Yeah, I can picture that.
Yeah, he likes to paint.
Mm-hmm. I believe he's also made some music as well.
Yeah. Also, he has done voice acting. He was on the Cleveland Show.
Oh, was he really? No
He
shit.
was, and the character was modeled after him, which is even better. So it's basically it was David Lynch as a wacky bartender who sounded like David Lynch.
Oh my god.
And he was delightful too. It was Gus. I think it was Gus the bartender.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, delightful. Or Heiden's in the middle. It's boring, And now good luck to you.
It's boring as shit.
Now get the F out of my office. Pleasure.
All right, and here's, I mean, this is like, it is a very kind of easy final shot to do, but I love how much it breaks the fourth wall, and
look where the horizon is.
It's such a fucking perfect, like, Dragon, honestly, like, as much as I don't want this to be the last Spielberg movie, and I very much doubt it's going to be, this would be such a perfect final Spielberg shot.
Yep. And the bare minimum was the last Spielberg movie for a while,
Mm-hmm. Whoop.
I mean, these are all. I mean, Tiki, honestly, with the thing for like, if this were the last we saw of Spielberg's work, I mean, it's like the brimming optimism of Spielberg. You have the John Williams music, and we adjusted for the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
I love that we adjusted the camera for that shot. I love that it was like it was locked in, then we moved it very slightly, as in like
okay, we have a dead baby in the comments. That I do not like that username, but more power to you. Hope you're doing well. I hope that you're someone that we know and you're just playing a trick with that username and he just says David Lynch. Yeah. Maybe dead baby is in reference to something David Lynch. I don't know.
Maybe it's just like when we invoke David Lynch's name, we get the David Lynch super show up. What if that just happens?
And then Richard's Victims popped up right at the end. Richard's Victims. It's funny timing. Says, have you guys ever seen Band of Brothers? Spielberg produced that. I have not. Have you, Dragon?
I mean, I know about it, but just the fact that it was like not Spielberg directed, and I've never.
I'm sure it's good, but war movies just generally aren't really my thing unless it's Dunkirk.
There's always the thing of like Spielberg not having hands, and it's like, well, it's never going to be Saving Private Ryan, It's like that whole.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I've always heard
this ain't gonna be the last Spielberg movie, man.
Yeah.
The man won't be able to resist it. I totally agree.
We're not saying it's actually gonna be the last Spielberg movie. It's just it feels like right now, like he hasn't really announced anything, and there is somewhat of a finale that he's telling his life story at the end.
It would be interesting if this kind of marked another, like, a transitional point and another era for him, though. I could see that.
It's possible.
All right, so final thoughts, Dragon.
Yeah. Final thoughts. I mean, look, it's again, I know we just kind of like said, it's very likely not the end. But if you were to end things for Spielberg, this is potentially one of the best ways you could do it. It's a personal film. It's beautifully shot. It's earned self-indulgence, which is so rare in this world. And yeah, it's just it's just kind of like there's a simplicity to this movie. There's something simple and digestible about this movie, and I mean, the only competition really has is that documentary on Spielberg, and obviously there's that removal that hopefully makes this a little bit more palatable to an audience that's not just Spielberg super fans. And I think looking at it again, you're gonna feel for this kid, and you're gonna be enamored by it. And I mean, there's a hope that people would see this and they would want to do a deep dive in Spielberg's movies. There's like a snake eating its tail sort of vibe, which like they're gonna watch this like. So this is somewhat based on him. I want to see what his filmography is like. So in a sense, you're getting kind of like all the sequels.
I mean, I can't imagine someone would watch this without at least having watched, like a few of his iconic movies, though, like Jurassic Park, Jaws, that kind of thing. I could see this as like a solid entryway into some of his deeper cuts.
Yeah, but I mean, imagine this make for like the ultimate Spielberg binge. If you started with this and then you watched them all, so you kind of had an answer to like, I wonder what that young man went on to do next after that little walk.
Right.
Wow, he went far. And then he did the heady meta thing of like, then you watch the movie again after you get through everything. Like, oh, he made his own biopic. What do you know?
I mean, remind me, we're ending with Duel, right?
Well, no, we're ending with Twilight Zone. We're ending with the Twilight Zone movie.
Oh, right. Okay, but
so the reason we're doing that is
I was going to say, is Duel next?
I believe so.
So we're kind of going to be on that journey a little bit.
Well, yeah, by intention, Tiki. Yeah, so we're going to be kind of going, seeing where the young man started. Which, I mean, we debated starting with Twilight Zone because, again, it's him in the TV years. So the idea is, like, in real life, Spielberg, he goes on to direct Joan Crawford and do some TV stuff, which eventually leads to the stuff that builds up the Jaws. So, we have, like, 2 movies and then Jaws. We have Duel, we got Sugarland, then we have Jaws, which obviously, we've already talked about. So we're not doing that one again.
Okay, so final thoughts on my end. I mean, I really think this movie's a treasure. Again, I just for the past, like, I hate staring at the poster and the fact that the girlfriend is front and center on the poster. Like, she is the one element of this movie that I am not crazy about. But other than her, and she really doesn't play that big of a role, which, again, she shouldn't be that prominent on the poster. Other than her, I genuinely think everything else about this movie is pretty damn fantastic. I think that, honestly, Dragon, it really took me aback just how well paced this movie is. And that's kind of what I was talking about with the set pieces. It's like this movie never drags. It never really lingers on any, on any one thing. There's always something happening. There's always some sort of, development. And I really think that's strong on his end. And just the commentary that this movie has just on, the state of film, the effect film has on people, kind of like the escapist element of it
captures the
sort
magic,
of the danger in losing yourself in your art.
Yeah,
it's very, very rich thematically.
Captures the magic beautifully, just flawlessly cast, and it's again, it's been putting his heart on display there, and it's a lovely tribute to his parents.
Okay, Richard's Victims, really quick, says Band of Brothers, one of the best miniseries, and I do think it's better than Saving Private Ryan.
I haven't seen it, so maybe he's right. I don't know.
Gil says this movie doesn't seem to be for people who aren't already interested in filmmaking, to be honest.
That's a fair point.
I feel like I don't even necessarily think you need to be interested in filmmaking. I think you just need to be interested in Spielberg himself, which, I guess by some extent you're into filmmaking because of that. But yeah, I feel you. I feel you. Okay, well, that is about it, folks. We will be back next time for Duel. We've only got a few of these left. Dragon, you want to explain again kind of the logic of us doing the retrospectives instead of commentaries?
All right, well, folks, again, traditionally our sell here was that Spielberg never did commentary on his own works, which infuriated us, and we wanted to pick up the slack there. Problem, now that we're in the final stretch, we kind of had the realization, as much as we want to do commentaries and all the stuff, it's not as readily available as it should be. But secondly, is the fact that even if we went out of our way and we did cover, it's the fact that our dear viewers, chances are they would be in a similar boat access-wise, and it'd be like a thing where we'd have to count on, like, the audience like going for the rentals on these, and these are some of these in the more obscure Spielberg movies. So we kind of split the difference. We decided to just do kind of retrospectives on those that remain, with the Fablemans being the last major release that people might have access to. So,
all right. Well, stay tuned until next time when we round out this cinematic odyssey through one man's career and the next thrilling installment of Spielberg Month.
I've started therapy.
I'm sorry, do we not do the do?
No, we do, but I jumped the gun.
Yeah, you did jump the gun. Okay. On the next Spielberg Month. Do 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 do. I started therapy. All right,
there you go.